Welcome, everybody. Can we get mics on? Can I get a motion to first open the Finance Committee meeting? Bruce and Jim. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Can I now have a motion to open the public hearing for the continuation of the articles that were tabled until a future date that are scheduled for tonight? Bruce and Jim. All those in favor? Opposed? Great. Unanimous. All right. Monday, March 30th, the Community Preservation Committee. Article 38B, Community Preservation Budget. And I believe we have those. Okay. I know I've got to go find it now. Is that it? Thanks. Welcome, Community Preservation Committee. Do you guys have you have a copy of the budgets? Right, okay, from Bill. Awesome, and here is the town accountant. All right. Bill, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, we'll start with the Excel spreadsheet. This is a little spreadsheet that I do every year. So we'll start from the bottom, appropriations and reservations. We have the administrative expenses, which is going to be 5% of our estimated revenues. We have the long-term debt service for Glen Echo, which is $85,185. We have the debt service for the town hall slate roof, $11,850. The pump station, $12,200. Then I have what I call estimated unissued debt service, and this is all part of the treasurer's budget that she submitted. $349,200. And I think on yours, Dwight and Louise, it says short term. That's a bad caption. It should say estimated unissued debt service. So that's the stuff that's been voted but hasn't been issued yet.
Mine too.
And then we have Article 45A, which is the Glen Echo Recreational Design and Construction, and I assume that's going to be borrowing because it's $304,000, so it's in the borrowing column. 45B, I assume, was going to be cash, so that's in the Historic Resources column. And 45C is the Recreation Facilities. That's $258,000, so I'd assume that was going to be borrowing. And then the budget annual reserve fund is $448,279. And then we reserve traditionally 10% for each of the categories. You have to, by law, either spend or reserve 10% of your estimated annual revenues, next year's revenues, for each of the three categories. So that's the $68,966. So if you go back up now to the funding sources, you'll see I have estimated revenues for 2016. I have the three reserves: open space, historic resources, community housing, and then we have undesignated fund balance, which can be spent for any purpose. So the estimated 2016 revenues are going to be $689,660, which would be estimated $570,000 of surcharges. The Department of Revenue is saying it's going to be 18% state reimbursement this year.
Actually, what are the surcharges for, Bill?
From the tax bill. They call it a surcharge. It's from the tax bill.
Okay, yep.
They call it a surcharge because it's based on your tax bill, and it's a
Revenue,
surcharge
okay.
on that, percentage of that. So we're expecting 18% back from the state trust fund, so that's $106,660. $3,000 of estimated investment income, and then other income, tax liens and other stuff, $10,000. So we're estimating that we're going to collect $689,660. So that's going to be our base. Now, these are the actual reserve. The remaining columns are the reserves and fund balance. So at the moment, we have $139,539 in open space, 305,074 in historic resource, 372,32 in community housing, and 205,537 in undesignated fund balance. So those are the funding sources in the middle section. Estimated appropriations and reservations at the bottom. So you'll see that the administrative expenses, the budgeted annual reserve, and the 3 reservations are the items that come out of the estimated next year revenues. There's your 689, 660. The Glen Echo comes out of the open space reserve, the 85,185. The town hall slate roof and the pump station, 11,850 and 12,200 come out of the historic resources, as does the Cape and Reynolds Farmhouse security. And then nothing out of community housing, no charges to community housing this year. And then the unissued debt service, there's several items that were voted on there. So I thought until it was issued, we would just put it in the fund balance, the undesignated fund balance column until it's issued, because we don't know when it's going to be issued, really. Otherwise, I got to take it out of reserve at the end of the year, put it back in reserve, then take it out, then put, so I figured just leave it in undesignated for now, until we find out what the actual amount that's going to be issued. And then if we want, we can take that out of the reserves. But none of that 349,200 has been issued yet, but the treasurer has to put that in her budget just to have it covered in case it is. And then the two borrowing articles, 304,000 and 258,000. And Dwight and Luis, I hope I haven't missed anything on the warrant. I think I caught everything. Did I get you?
Looks good to me.
Okay. So then the text page is a draft motion, which I copied from last year, just changed the numbers. So we have the community preservation administrative expenses, 34,483. The long-term debt service is 109,235. And again, if you would change that short-term debt service to unissued debt service, that's a bad caption. So make that unissued debt service, 349,200. We've got the 3 reservations, 68,966. The budgeted annual reserve for 448,279. And then the last paragraph is to meet the appropriation and the sources where they're coming from. So any questions so far?
Can we start with the CPC? Dwight, do you folks have any questions or wanted to discuss any of this, or?
Yeah, I think things are as they should be here, as far as I can see.
I've just got a question about the unissued debt and varying lengths of the potential bonds for different projects.
Right. Let's see.
We can hear you.
I can't.
I'll speak up.
Let's see. Okay, John, so we have, the Glen Echo, we have 295,000 remaining. Might not even be used. So that's roughly 25,000. That would be 20-year borrowing. The railroad station, 250 authorized. That would be like 22.5 in debt service annually. These are all estimates, by the way. Community housing for the elderly, $1.5 million. That would be 135,000 debt service.
Yeah, that's gone, unfortunately.
Swan's Tavern, 350. So that would be another.
Also gone.
Gone?
Well, that's fallen through,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Both
Okay,
those
all
projects,
right.
Bill.
So,
The housing part of it, at the Schechter in back.
the State Theater is 550, so we're estimating 49.5. And then community housing at 223 Pearl is 350, so we're estimating 31.5 on that. So I put that in the undesignated column because we don't know if it's, if and when it's going to be issued. you know?
Okay, and are those going to be 20-year bonds?
Yeah, they're mostly building repairs, so yeah, they'll be probably 20-year, yeah.
Thank you.
All set, John? Mrs. Coburn?
Bill, the assessors put in an article, Article 21, which I believe, if passed, would be a reduction of roughly $42,000 to the CPA because the revenue would decrease. Has that been factored into here or not?
Yeah, I think we're going to collect a little bit more than 570, but we try to be conservative, just to be on the safe side, you know.
Okay, so you're being conservative, so if
Yeah.
that were to pass and we got 42,000 less
Yeah,
because
I
of
don't
that,
think,
you'd
I
still
don't think
be...
we'd have,
Okay, and just those two projects that fell through, how does that translate into the budget? Does someone have to rescind those so that it comes out of the undesignated, so that it's no longer just put on hold?
yes, yeah, they should be rescinded.
And at this town meeting coming up, is that the time to do it?
Well, we could add them to the list that I have, Rick, you know?
What?
Like, I could add them to that list that I do, if we wanted to.
I think your committee should get together on this. I think
they
it'd be
should be
premature to do this,
Should be
because I
voted
think
first,
there
that's
might be some other efforts to try and keep this project alive, so I wouldn't want to rush to judgment on whether we should defund it or not at this
True.
point. We've always got time to do it next year if we have to, or at a special, my opinion.
Thank you.
Mr. Malley?
What goes into the administrative expenses? What do you use, what does that 34,000 add up to, basically, from what?
So, secretary, some dues, office supplies, they don't really spend a heck of a lot.
Well, we are trying to hire an administrator now.
Yeah.
More of a full service.
Right.
Than just somebody to take minutes and somebody to help folks with
And just, I have one more thing too, but that explains that. The other question I have, which isn't related to these articles particularly, but since you're here, somebody's here, there is an article to do the Ames Pond bathhouse. Is that something where its recreation is available out of CPC funds if you guys so voted it?
It wasn't purchased by CPC funds to begin with, so but then they also loosened up the rule, but I
Right.
don't think
Right.
that's going to come out of CPC, the way it's planned now, is that correct?
Well,
I don't think
the
it
way
could.
it's planned now, it isn't, but there was a question whether it could, because of the renovation. It's, you know,
I can't hear a word she's saying.
and, maintenance.
So wait, can you guys use the microphone? Who is doing that?
That's Dwight. It is on.
I believe the way it stands now, that it was put in the budget, there were questions whether it could come under the CPA, and that's really a question we really have to look into, because this is a new interpretation of, you know, the law that was passed.
Right.
So definitely something we can look into. It would probably have to be withdrawn for this year, and then,
Well, yeah, that's right. So, I mean, if it's potentially something you can look into, I mean, more than
yes,
like-
it is, yeah.
More than I mean, by the time this gets passed and he could do anything, it really won't be till next year. He won't be able to
Right.
do it this year, so maybe it's something we could, at least when we're doing our voting, take a look at whether we can put this into the fall special town meeting as a CPC article, and if they say no, you know, if you guys say, no, it's not gonna fit, or we don't want to, then at least we could still do it then, and he's not gonna be any further behind.
Right.
Okay.
What's your sense, Larissa, of the new guideline?
The new guideline, our interpretation is that John Dennison, rec director, and I were looking at it, and it goes under renovation. So we didn't see a problem with it.
And the bathhouse is certainly historic down there, so.
It's been there for a long time. But, yeah, it doesn't, the only thing they don't let The new law is for gymnasiums, to pay for maintaining, a maintenance worker or a parks officer, but a renovation of an existing building is appropriate, so.
Yeah, I think it's, the article is 50,000, John?
Yeah.
If I remember. So it would be for a complete renovation. We think Bill wants to build a secret underground storage area for records and things, but
All right, well, so, I mean, I know this wasn't part of what we're discussing, but I thought since somebody was here that could maybe answer the question, just, we have to vote on all this stuff at some point.
right.
Thank you.
Ms. Walsh, did you have a question?
Cynthia Walsh, 1096 Park Street. I'm confused. Are we on number 2 on your agenda? Because that article is for a pumper. Then it says budget and report, which I think is what we're doing. And then it says page 19. Is that?
Are you referring to the bathhouse? Or,
No, I don't know where we are. I know it's the Community Preservation Committee. I know you've been talking about their budget and I guess their report, but then it
Oh,
says
the
page
agenda item, right.
19.
we're discussing the budget for the CPC. So the wording is correct here. I think the article number is wrong,
Okay. So,
if you didn't get that.
but page 19 of the budget or the warrant?
The warrant, it's an article.
All right, well, I
We're not
just,
discussing the budget, we're
so
discussing
it's
the
just that
warrant.
the article number should be 44?
Correct.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Yep.
Good catch.
Other questions for anybody? All right, so that was which article? Which article was that, John? Bruce, go ahead. Yeah, I got it. So it was supposed to be Article 44, Ms. Walsh, not 38. B. No, they're not. Go ahead, Bruce, sorry.
So, somewhere on this spreadsheet, does it say how much money is sitting in this community preservation fund?
No. No, this just basically outlines the available funding sources, the amount of money that's actually available,
For this coming year.
right, to spend, to appropriate.
But isn't that 2,053,000 approximately what he's asking about?
It's approximate to that, yeah, I mean, it doesn't include, we can't include this year's collections, so, but this would be as of the end of last year.
So, in looking at this spreadsheet, if this goes on the floor at town meeting, because I think some of them might be probably more educated than me, but I'm looking at this going, okay, your top thing, your top column where it says net receivable, CPA commitments versus CPA abatements, the 598,000 for fiscal year 2016.
Right.
Is that what which one of those is what we're getting from the state? Neither?
No, this is the top section is just, those are just estimates of what we're going to be billing for surcharges. The amount that we're estimating we're going to get from the state would be a percentage of that, so it would be 18% of the fiscal 2015 number.
So so that 598,
The
563,
592, 557 times 0.18 would be the 106.
yeah, so that number 598 might be less if the assessor's article goes through.
Yeah, it could be less. That's why I try to keep those numbers conservative.
So that goes down to this revenue line. And we have 689,660 of funding, which is then broken up into these 3 categories. No, it can't be.
Well, plus the undesignated, I mean, a minimum 10% has to be put in each of the three, and then the rest is over there at the end, the undesignated, which can go to any of them.
So of my 689,660,
Right.
that's my revenues for fiscal year 2016.
Estimated revenues, right. Mhm.
How does 689 go into reserve, like those three reserve columns, open space, historic, and community housing?
Okay, so.
Don't add up to 689.
So we're taking 206,898 out of the estimated revenues. You see that, the last line down, Bruce? Just before the subtotal?
Wait,
206,898 in the first column,
At the
last
bottom.
row.
okay, that's
That's coming out
below,
of-
that's in your appropriate. I'm just looking at this funding sources in this
Okay.
middle section here.
Yep,
So you have 689,660.
right.
And now you're appropriating that over these three reserve columns?
Yeah, we're taking 10% of the estimated revenue, and we're taking out of estimated revenues and putting it into each of the reserves.
So is this total reserve, if I added those four reserves, the open space, the historic, community housing, and the undesignated borrowing, is that what's sitting in the community preservation fund?
Now, okay, so the 68,966, the three of those, we can't use those because those aren't going to be appropriated until July 1, 2015. So the open space, historic resource, and community housing balances that we can use are the ones in the middle section. Those are the balances that we can appropriate.
Okay, so
It's confusing, I know.
for fiscal year 2016,
Yeah,
I have 689,660 of money coming in.
right.
And now I'll skip the reserve columns for now. So now you take that down below,
Yep,
and your expenses, then your budgeted annual reserve fund of 448, and then this reservations, 10% of estimated revenues, 206.
which is 3 times the 68,966.
So should that total 689,660?
Yep,
Okay.
I think it does.
So all the revenue that's coming in, you have essentially earmarked going out.
Yeah, so basically, we're using, all of next year's revenues, we're using 5% for the administrative expenses, 30% for the reserves, and the balance for the budgeted annual reserve fund.
So that 448,279
Right.
and the budget annual reserve, that's going into the pool of money that's been collected over the years.
No, that's an appropriation. That's their reserve fund. That's like the Finance Committee's reserve fund, only they can't spend it. They have to go to town meeting to spend it.
Okay,
It's just
so-
like a Finance Committee's reserve fund, very similar to that.
Okay, so all this other stuff that's in here is just kind of, to me, it's kind of extraneous. Like, because we're borrowing, like, they want to borrow for this and they want to borrow for they want to borrow for most everything. And then this long-term debt service is being paid for by whom? Or from where?
Yeah, the debt service would come from the appropriate column. So the Glen Echo would come from the Open Space Reserve Fund. The slate roof and the pump station would come from the Historic Resources Reserves.
So, sorry, I know, you've dealt with me enough times that you know I'm a little slow on the
No,
uptake.
no, that's all right. No, it's
So if
confusing.
I'm looking at this open space reserve column,
Yeah,
139, 539
mm-hmm,
is above where it says appropriations and reservations.
right.
Then long-term debt service, Glen Echo, is a negative. But then you're putting 68,000 back in. I don't understand how you get to a negative 16,000. Or am I looking at this backwards?
That, The 85,185, okay, so it's a double line on the funding sources, so don't include that. So it's the 85,185,
Okay, so,
68,966 added in. So the open space fund is technically losing 16,219 during fiscal 16. Pardon? For the year, yeah.
but that's not, see,
It's going to go
That will
down
come
by,
out of the
it's
undesignated.
going to go down by the 16. That, the open space reserve would go down by 16,000.
the problem I'm having with all this, what you're doing here is a budget for the year, and I think I'm kind of slowly grasping this, but as a taxpayer and a homeowner in this town, the Community Preservation Act was passed, and we have this bucket of money. The CPC is sitting on a bucket of money. Where does anybody in this town know how much money that is? I don't see that anywhere. Like, all this is, I understand what you did here now. This is 2016, so below that double line. So I have the 680 and then all the other stuff. But there is a bucket of money, retained earnings from previous years.
Yep,
Where is it and how much is it? And I don't, like,
I'll give you that right now.
well, it's not so much I want to know the number right now, but I think it needs to be reported to town meeting, because one of the things that we heard when we were hearing the other articles is that the Community Preservation Committee chose that the town's going to borrow money where they have cash, and they're choosing to sit on their cash and encumber the town for some borrowing. I don't understand. So me as a town person, taxpayer, I'm having a hard time justifying the two. And I don't see that anywhere here. And I think that should be reported somewhere here. And if I'm wrong, sorry. But I don't think that the Community Preservation Committee should be allowed to sit on a pool, a big bucket of cash, and nobody knows about it, but then they want to go and borrow, and this budget is showing me at the end, I think we're borrowing 562,000, and we have 689, 660 coming in for the year. But who's doing, is Community Preservation doing the borrowing, or is the town doing the borrowing?
Town does the borrowing.
The town does the borrowing,
Debt service gets paid back out of community preservation funds.
so the community, but we have a bucket of cash. And I understand, like, I bought a car,
Bill, how much is the total cash available right now in that reserve?
Let's see,
Do you just add these numbers
Yeah,
across
these
the
up
total
across,
funding
yeah,
sources?
Just add your reserves and fund balance, that's what's available to spend right now.
Reserves and fund balances. So I actually, if you drop down one line, the total funding sources, that 689, 660 isn't available?
That's available.
Okay, so
Yep.
I added that to the 139, 539.
Right.
I added that to the 305, 074. This is like the line that's dead center in the middle of this page, if that's what it says, total funding source. I had those all across. I got $3,558,672. Is that the amount of money that's in the bucket right now?
That's pretty close, yeah.
Okay, could you do us a favor and get us a schedule of all the appropriations that have been made against that and what the payment sources are for that, so that we can have that for town meeting and to answer this question? I think what we're looking at is as an analysis of this account. You know, rather than a snapshot of what's happening this year, what's being looked at, because I had the same questions. What's the aggregate look like? How much total money is there above and beyond, just outside of this year? How much money is there, and how much have we appropriated, and what's left? So, anyways.
And I think, too, to respond to Bruce's thing, because they mentioned before, we talked about it, the reason they borrow is because it can spread the available, they can do multiple projects that way at one time, is the reason they borrow. So if they pay cash for everything, then they could pay cash for things, but then they'd have less ability to do more projects. That was the reason. I'm just saying that's the reasoning they gave. That was your question, that's the reason they gave. That is why they do it that way. Yeah, no, I'm just saying, that is the reason they gave.
I don't necessarily agree with their reason, but
Well,
I
yeah,
heard their
that's-
reason.
But they're the ones that have to do
And
it.
then, based on that argument, I would like to see a list of their priorities over time as to what they're trying to tackle, so that we can all see that. We keep asking everybody else for what is your priority.
Our plan is on.
I don't see any list of priorities from the Community Preservation Committee.
I'm trying to stay within the bounds and the scope of this article, and we're treading into
Right, for something
much
just,
deeper water here than I
right, just to
intended.
explain though, for something like the 1.7 million that was going to housing, I mean, some huge ticket items, now maybe if we just paid cash for that, then the next 5 people to come, we'd say, well, sorry, we don't have any money. So we're trying to maintain resources so we can hear new projects that may be deserving and pay for the ones that we've already approved over time and still have reserves to approve new deserving projects.
Again, I'm not disagreeing with, we've asked every department head in town, what is your list of priorities for what you want to purchase? We ask everybody for their list of priorities. I don't see a list of priorities from the Community
Well, those-
Preservation
all
Committee.
right, just
except
to
for-
qualify, those are for the articles that are in the current year warrant. You're looking for future for them. What do they want to spend their money on, right? Because they've listed their priorities. They're
Spending
here.
is in an article in this warrant
Yeah.
from the community. So if you want to know what they're going to spend it on this year, it's the various articles.
Correct.
So-
But we're borrowing money so we can do multiple projects. What are these projects? To justify the borrowing,
They don't.
I'd like to know what the future projects
They don't-
may be.
The things that'll come up, it's like any other
All right,
enterprise
can we
fund.
Can we let the CPC answer that, and then we're going to move on?
Yes, people have to, it comes from the community, our projects. People have to make an application out, they have to come to us, they have to explain what their project is that they'd like CPC money for. It has to follow under the state guidelines, and then the process starts. We don't pick the projects.
John, you got to use your
Right,
mic.
we also have the CPC plan that is on our website that has a mission statement that, you know. You're right.
And so it is there to be read, and it took a long time to prepare, and we would welcome you reading it. It took a long time to get it finalized, but it sets them out in general sense. And then, as she's saying, we are taking proposals from various people around town, groups, and working within these 3 categories. We're governed to work within these categories.
Okay. I'm going to move on here. I think that,
Thank you.
Bob, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, out of all the articles, were all of these presented by residents, or were they presented by the community, by your committee?
They were, well, the Glen-Echo one was done by the Glen-Echo Study Committee, which had gotten 20,000 the year before, and then Cape and Reynolds. So the Friends of Cape and Reynolds did one, and then, was it Friends of Glen-Echo did both of those 2.
Okay.
So CPC in and of itself doesn't originate any of these, even though there may be people who are interested. It comes from an outside party, sometimes recreation.
We are all representatives of various committees, so we sometimes
Historical Commission for me, and so on.
Okay. All right, I think that we're all set with the CPC. Is that awesome? Thanks so much for being here and answering all of our questions, and some of your own. Okay, we are moving on to Article 12, which is rescind unissued borrowing authorizations. I don't recall why we continued this.
We were waiting on a list from Bill. He was on
Those are
vacation at the
Well,
time.
there's 2 things. There's a borrowing authorization and to rescind unallocated. So,
Yeah, this is different than what we talked about, the unexpended funds. This is authorizations that are on the books. It's like canceling a line of credit that we're not going to use.
Right, and we had a list of those, right?
Right.
Yeah, this is not the unexpended articles list. This is a list that Bill published to us that of projects that they want to cancel and
Did you get the,
deauthorize them.
I've never seen a list. It was my recollection, that's why we tabled it, because we were waiting on a list. But I could be wrong.
did you get that list?
Does Jamie have it? Jamie, could you print that list for us, please? The list of the, let me get it correctly, to rescind unissued borrowing authorizations, it's Article 12. There were a handful of articles that Bill is recommending that we rescind the borrowing authorization on.
See if I can find it.
Unissued borrowing.
For us.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Mhm. Yep, okay.
Unpaid bills. They in the library are on Wednesday. Those are on Wednesday.
Thanks a lot.
And can you just, Jamie, just print off Michael's? I responded to it, but just print off his email with the attached Lauren Goldberg. Okay. Bill?
Yep. Okay, so these are, what I did is I looked at the unexpended articles that we had, and then I went back and I compared those to, there's a list of authorized and unissued debt on our statement of indebtedness. So I went back and compared those, and we're going to cancel out the borrowing authorizations for those articles. So this is basically just, has nothing to do with money borrowed. This is money that hasn't been borrowed, so we're just basically canceling out a line of credit on those.
Rick? The 100,000 for the Jones School roof? Didn't we do the engineering stuff? Is this the 100,000 is this what's left from?
Yeah, the authorization, I think, was 550, we borrowed 450.
Okay, so we did do the Jones School
It's all
roof.
done, yeah, it's all done, yeah. Yeah.
Right, so when we go through the unexpended articles, you'll see that line in there for the Jones School, and you'll see what was appropriate by town meeting. Any cash that was borrowed was remaining. And then the remaining of what's available for borrow. That's what this is. Sorry. So what this is just what we didn't borrow for these projects, and we're retiring these projects, so.
Right.
Okay. And it looks like it's about 481,215, Bill? Is that kind of rough math in the head?
All right, yep.
Okay. So I can adjust my, well, we can adjust the debt by that.
Yeah.
Good.
And Rick, is this what you used to refer to as the potential debt?
The
It's not.
potential debt. I
It's
don't know.
not, I'm trying to remember the terminology used. We haven't borrowed it yet, but we are on the, we
it's-
report it because we have the ability to borrow it.
Yeah, it's appropriated, correct. Yep, so when you look at Bill's schedule of all of the articles that are still open because they've been borrowed for and there's cash remaining that's been borrowed, or there's no cash available, but there's still more money to be borrowed if we wanted to because we only borrowed part of it. And that's what this case is. So the remaining appropriation on this spreadsheet that Bill prepares is what we're talking about, which is the final column to the right. And Bill always does a cover note on these unexpended articles, which explains exactly what each of these columns is for and how to interpret it, okay? And right now, we've worked through that whole spreadsheet of unexpended articles, and generally what we do when we do the motions is to take whatever the department heads say is released and available to us, we take those cash items and match them up to like projects or like articles, and then reduce the amount of cash expenditure or from a reserve spending or from a borrowing. However we decided to fund this, we reduce it by that amount of this unallocated or this unexpended article. Okay? It's just another source of funding for us. It's cash that we've got that hasn't been spent that's just sitting here. So we just take it and reallocate it to other projects that match up. It's got to be a like project for bond council to approve this transfer. So, for example, if it was we borrowed for a police car, we can assign it to a police car purchasing article, for example. Okay? Any more questions relating to, what was it, Article 8 or 18? I hate this. What is it? 12. I can't see the glare with this stupid light. Article. I don't know what that says. Unpaid bills, Article 10. All right, and then Article, which one was this?
12.
Article 12. Thank you, Bill. Okay, Article 10, unpaid bills. Bill, can you tell us what the unpaid bills are, please? At this point, I know they kind of accumulate, but I think we had two.
Yep. I think that's right.
One from the town clerk was print
Yeah,
job.
town clerk, let's see. It's for $9,805.35. It's for
9835?
$9,805.35.
Okay.
It's for, I have a copy of it here. It's for coding of the balloting machines from,
This is a programming charge for the ballot machines?
it says AccuVote coding, AccuVote ballot printing.
Yeah, it was the printing of the ballots.
Yeah, printing the ballots, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay. And what was the other one, Bill?
The other one was for a laptop computer for the CPC, which we thought was paid, but all of a sudden, it showed up.
How much is it?
Well, actually, we had it as an open purchase order, and then we closed the purchase order. And that is for, let's see. Let's see. 60238 from November of 2000, I'm sorry, 60232 from November of 2013.
2013?
Mm-hmm.
And the sources of funding on these, Bill, is this coming out of,
Would have to be free cash, or it could be some other department.
well, shouldn't it be CPC for this one?
Administration, I would think.
Yeah,
That has to be voted.
they have to vote it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't,
It should, Pat's right, it should be
Should fund.
administrative. Money's been allocated.
should be administrative, but yeah,
Yeah.
we can't use this year's, because it's a prior year.
Hang on, he's thinking.
Good question.
Can you check on that and get back to us?
Yeah, yeah. It's a prior year administrative bill. Can the
Right.
CPC pay it? Yeah.
It seems to me that they already allocated this.
Yep.
I mean, you don't itemize that the secretary got charged to that account, or a printing expense got charged to that account, or,
Right.
you know, they vote on that total amount and then they spend it. It's been appropriated by the committee.
Yep.
All right, that's gonna affect the grid, unpaid bills. Okay, good. Any other questions on unpaid bills? Bill, is that, those are the only two, right?
There's only two so far, yeah. Yep.
Anticipating any others, or?
Could be, yep. You never know. Probably want to refer that to town meeting.
Right. When we vote on it, that'll be, but we want to know what was in the pipe so far.
Mhm.
Any other questions on this from the committee? Seeing none, moving on. The last item that was tabled was, let me just see. This was Article 18, and this was the library article. Because there was a question about clarification about are these funds guaranteed, and is the town only in for the exact amount of money that we said we'd be in, and what you have in front of you that Jamie just passed out was the article with Lauren Goldstein's opinion on the bottom, printed in bold. So her opinion in a nutshell is, yes, the motion as it is written is sufficient to protect the town from only what it's committed to. Any questions on that?
I haven't read it yet.
The only question I pushed back to the town manager was that on approximately line 10, in the second paragraph, let me see. Actually, it's in the second paragraph, 3 lines up from the bottom, it says under GL.C.section 7. The Mass General law is missing from there. So I asked him to make sure it gets in. Okay, and I think that that takes care of any tabled,
Thea? Didn't we
we don't
table
have
Thea?
anything for Thea, so.
So,
If they give us something after we are done voting on Wednesday or Thursday, then would, and it's within a reasonable amount of time to town meeting, we'll have to reconvene and hear it.
so for now, though, it's staying tabled?
Yeah, well, we're going to vote on it, and it's going to be referred to town meeting because we don't have anything. So, okay? Okay. The warrant. We're going to start voting on all these articles now, but you have a rather large spreadsheet in front of you. And let me explain that to you. So each year the question comes up is how do we pay for this stuff? And what I do is take out all the articles and then I align them by funding source. So in a very simple way, if it's a CPC article, it gets funded by the CPC. If it's a truck for the sewer department, it's sewer department debt. If it's something for the golf course, they get charged for it. If there are other sources of revenue available to us, then we assign or allocate it to those. And essentially what's left becomes general borrowing or cash. So I try to figure out what doesn't really qualify for borrowing, and I put those to cash because they're either smaller amounts or they don't have a real useful life of 3 years or under $5,000 in value. So that's kind of sort of the genesis of this so that we can kind of sort of figure out how these things should be funded. Because the rule of thumb I've been using is that borrowing for articles should not exceed 3 to 5% of total revenues for the year. So if revenues are $100 million, we shouldn't be borrowing more than $3 to $5 million a year. Within the approximation of what we're retiring for debt this year. Any questions on that thought process?
You have the number that we're retiring for debt?
Yeah. It's 3.8. John, what is it? $3,872,451.34. Now, there's a $3,800 adjustment in there, but that's pretty much the debt we're paying off this year. Okay?
So, I'm sorry, can I just follow? So if I'm reading this correctly,
Wait, let me explain this
Oh, I'm sorry.
chart to you before you start trying to analyze it, Mrs. Colburn.
I apologize.
Holy smokes.
Chair.
All right, in the left column, you'll see that there's the article number and the title of the article. And then immediately following that is the estimated cost. And then there's another column that I actually thought I had hidden on this because it wasn't necessary. It was who it was requested by. And then the subsequent columns are sources of funding. The sources of funding that I have identified are cash, a surety bond, general borrowing, sewer enterprise, because we could borrow against sewer enterprise, sewer retained earnings, and sewer got cut off at the top. We have money in retained earnings in there we can spend. Water enterprise, because we can borrow from there. Senate CPA, because they have their own source of funding. Unexpended articles as a source of funding, once we figure out what that is. The MSBA is in here as a reimbursement against the total amount that we did put in under general borrowing of $2,275,000 for the new windows that are in here. And then the last column is the MWRA reimbursement. So we borrow $300,000 from the MWRA for I&I expenses. They reimburse us at 75%, and it's pretty much we borrow it, they pay us. So as far as I'm concerned, that's an offset to the cost. But we've got to borrow the $300,000 to begin with. Okay? So as we go through this warrant and we come to each article, I've assigned what I think is the right funding sources for this because of all the logic that I've just explained. So, and if you disagree with it, you disagree with it. But at the end of the day, the bottom line, under estimated cost, you'll see the total articles requested was $8,742,198. Okay? If you add up the lines at the bottom of all of these columns, the ones that are in red, 162,200, the 74,000, and then the general borrowing of a plus of 4,512,125, the 75, the negative 380,000, the positive 662,000 under water enterprise, the negative 584 for CPA, 0 for unexpended articles, the negative for 1,228,500, and the MWRA reimbursement of 225,000. If I took all of that and netted it out, the net effect of that was, hang on a second. Well, this says it was $5,042,425, but I'm going to have to check the formulas on that, because if you subtract that from the 8, then in theory what we're borrowing is $3,699,773. But I think that there's a problem with that formula. Yeah. So essentially, if you take the general borrowing of $4,512,000 and add to it the sewer enterprise and the water enterprise, that's the total borrowing. Then if you subtract to that all the red ink that's next to it, that's what's going to be the general borrowing for this year. I don't know why that formula is broken. It wasn't when I sent the spreadsheet. Yeah. Oh, it's double dip. I see. Yep, I see that. So that number should really be 6.5 million, not 8,742,000, right?
Other small ones on here too. The salt brine system, the 75, it's not allocated.
One second, Ed.
See the 2,198? If you add up Article 38 all the way down, all those single numbers, it all adds up to something. It's that full. Should have pulled that.
Go ahead, Ed.
Just wanted a couple small things here. The salt brine system for 75,
Yeah.
I don't see that allocated to the right anywhere.
Which article number?
25. There's
Okay.
no more columns after MWRA. is
That'll
there?
be general borrowing. I don't have any other funding sources for that.
Not cash.
No, there's no cash. You know, with the snow plow going, I've only spent $162,000 in cash. I dare not spend any more because we haven't gotten all the bills yet for the snow plowing.
Let's cut. Hey, the other one is Article 28, Queen Anne, the 90,000 for the sewer department. I don't see that one going across.
Yeah, it should be in the sewer enterprise.
That should be in the sewer enterprise?
Yep.
Okay, and then the, number 36, the water department. You got the 62, but you got an extra 170 under general borrowing. And then you got 170 negative in the sewer fund, which is...
I'm sorry,
probably
which one is it, article number?
36.
36.
62 you got in the water, but there's 170 under general borrowing, which probably should go to zero. It's just a going across thing. And then the minus 170 is below that is the sewer department, that's retainers. I think it's just a column across problem.
Boy, how did this thing get so messed up?
10 o'clock at night, trying to make it
Well,
balance.
I asked that the grid lines be printed actually on this thing too, so too much rushing. So Article 37, 170 for sewer, should be in sewer, not general borrowing.
Well, the sewer's right, the 37. It's the 36 got the 62 and take out the 170 on the general borrowing.
Ed, you're going too fast here, buddy.
If you go across this line here, the 62,
Yeah.
it's also says 170 on the same line. It's hard to tell, but it's on the same line.
All right, so the
170 should go
62
down one line.
is for the water department. Goes,
62 's
62
okay.
should go down one line.
That's
right?
okay.
170
general borrowing 170, no, it should be
It goes to zero.
170.
No, but the 62 should stay in water, right? No, because it's not red. It just belongs in water.
Just get reduced to 170 to zero. On the general borrowing, just make it zero to 170.
Ed, to your point,
Yeah. The water,
Article 36, the $62,000
Right.
is accounted for in the water enterprise account where it should be, but it's also listed as 170 for borrowing, general borrowing, and that should be taken out.
That should be zero, right?
That's right.
The next line's right, the 170 into the enterprise, into the reserve.
Yes.
And then one other one, the police cruisers, number 38D1. We have 239, and then we got 175 allocated. I don't know where the other piece is.
I think it's what the subcommittee approved.
We're out 64.
No, it's not anything to do with that.
64, 274 is out. I don't know what,
Barbara, do you know what you guys recommended for this?
Yeah, we recommended we took the 6 cruisers and divided the 239, 274 by 6, and then multiplied it by 4.
So you're recommending the 175?
Yeah.
well, that's free.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, John? Yeah.
But there is a delta there, and we need to take the 25 and so it's 64 something. I've also got to take out of that line.
But can you do that straight division? Because they asked for 3.
Just dollars. You can allocate whatever you want.
3 sedans.
They've asked for 3 and 3.
Yeah, so when you're doing the math, I don't know if straight, unless this goes to 2 and 2.
We just said to him, this is how much money we're giving you.
Yeah.
We are not telling you what you can buy. This is what
dollar
you can
amount, yeah.
spend.
Right. Okay?
All right, that's enough. That's all I found for now.
All right, good. I'll make sure this gets cleaned up, and I'll resend it out tonight to everybody. But at least you understand what the thought process is in terms of how we look to pay for these things. John? Why are you waiting until, go ahead.
No, 38B4, it says 10,000, then it says no, and there's nothing next to it.
Yeah, what's the
I don't know what the no means.
Oh, that was in my note to self. Forget about the no.
But there's also no funding for it. I assume it's cash.
Yeah, I would not worry about it. I had a note in here because at some point I had another column in here for budget. I was
Oh,
actually going to put these things in their budget.
Okay.
So, but just, when I looked at the cash, I figured there was, we're going to pay cash in the budget or here, so it just seemed from a paperwork standpoint to leave it there. Okay? Any other questions? Thanks for all this input, by the way. All right. Jim, go ahead.
Central Street Sewer Extension, Mark Tisdale, when he was here, was suggesting that those abutters were going to...
Wait a minute, which article, Jim? 32?
30.
30, Central Street Sewer Extension, okay?
That, he was talking that the abutters were going to arrange to have that sewer go down through the backs of their property, and there wasn't going to be any town cost to it at all.
So he said that we wouldn't have to spend the 160,000?
That's correct. The only, the abutters could get their own contractor in to do it and to tie into the sewer that's just. Yeah.
Okay. So. Okay, good. All right, so we'll take that out, and then I'll have to refigure out the retained earnings for sewer, because that leaves money available to spend at this point. So probably the 90 for Article 28, Queen Anne and Beaver Brook, and also 75 from the 300,000 for I&I, because we're going to get a 75% reimbursement. That's what's left over. We can pay for it out of retained earnings, and that equals 165,000. And we had 20,000 to play with there. I'm sure we can. But again, it can only be used for sewer purposes. All right?
Eric?
Yes?
And this is the town meeting only, the special town meeting? Because I noticed,
This is the town meeting only.
guess we'll have to
Right.
deal with the special town meeting because the schools had a lot.
Correct.
And I think, what, DPW?
Yep. This is just for the warrant, just for this.
So just keep that in mind, if somebody's got a figure in their head, that we've got several more for the special town meeting that we haven't talked about yet.
Okay. Article 1 is not here. Do you have Article 1 in your warrant? Yeah, I know. There is, but I don't. Where is Article 1?
Election.
The election.
I hear there's one coming up next week.
Next week? You have inside information on that, Ms. Welch?
I think, well, I don't have the names of any of the winners.
So should this committee make a recommendation? Sorry.
And people go to the polls on the 7th.
I think that's a good recommendation. Article 2, not assigned to us. Article 3, Cedar Hill Enterprise Fund, to reauthorize that fund. See if the town will vote to raise an appropriate transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to fund the Cedar Hill Golf Course for fiscal year 2016, or take any other action relative thereto. Now, I've kind of color-coded this, and I'm not sure that this one is on here. There are a bunch of articles above. Who was Cedar Hill? Subcommittee? Who was the chair of the Cedar Hill? Bob? Bob, did you want to make a motion on this? Generally, what we would do is, as a finance committee in the past, as a matter of fact, I don't know that we've ever varied from this vote, but the motion was always to approve. Is there a second? Second was Bruce. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Unanimous. Okay. And is today the 31st or 30th?
30th.
I think it was last year or 2 years ago, Peter Brown suggested that all names get recorded with each vote. Are we still doing that, or no?
Those don't survive year to year. One recommendation.
Oh, that was just for that year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, one finance committee can't bind another finance committee year to something that's, so. Yeah, but this was unanimous, so we're in good shape so far. Article 4, Public Health Association Enterprise Fund Account. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to fund the Stoughton Public Health Association for fiscal year 2016, or take any other action relative thereto. Bob? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? That's approved and it's unanimous. On 3:30. Okay. Article 5, Sewer Department Enterprise Fund Budget, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds in the treasury or any, if any, and/or borrow sufficient sum of money to fund the sewer department for the fiscal year 2016, or take any other action relative thereto. Jim, second? Bob, okay. So we got a motion and a second. I don't think we need to discuss, but Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? Unanimous? Dave, did you need us, or? Okay. Article 6, Water Department Enterprise Fund Budget, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, in or borrow the sufficient sum of money to fund the Water Department for fiscal year 2016, or take any other action relative thereto.
Motion to approve.
Jim? Second was
Second.
Bruce. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye, or raise your hands, actually. Opposed and abstaining. Actually, it was all hands, so it was unanimous. 3:30. Article 7, the revolving fund accounts. To see if the town will vote to reauthorize the use of the revolving fund accounts as authorized under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, for the Council on Aging, the Recreation Department, the Geographic Informational Systems, also known as GIS, the Stoughton Community Events Committee, the Stoughton Youth Commission, the Conservation Commission, the Board of Health, Hazardous Waste Material Control Bylaw, the Department of Public Works, Stormwater Management, and Compost BIM Program, and to authorize the creation of new revolving accounts as may be requested and as recommended by the Board of Selectmen, or take any other action relative thereto.
Motion to approve.
Jim?
Second.
Bruce? Any discussion? Pat?
You got your mic
Turn
on?
your microphone on.
Schedule is as is. We never saw a schedule with the amount, so I'm assuming there's no change. Correct?
Jim, Bill, you don't know of any new,
I don't know of any changes.
that would have come through actually as part of this motion. We did this last year with expanding or changing one.
I haven't seen any changes in wording or anything.
Yep.
I don't know if you folks have.
Who prepares the schedule?
Usually Jamie, I help her with it.
Okay. Hey, Jamie, can you get us a schedule of the revolving funds and which ones there are and the amounts authorized? Thank you. Any other discussion? Jim?
Why does the Conservation Commission have a revolving account?
Well, this is the, for the fees that they collect. So we pay for the health agent, Conservation Commission. They do collect fees, and this is where that money goes. So they use it, they spend it on, keeping the bird trail open and other things, I think, right, Bill?
Yeah. Training and consulting and maintenance of trails and,
Right, it's an offset to their budget.
yeah, it's in addition to their budget.
Right.
Does that show up anywhere in their budget, that,
No, it's in addition to their budget. You'll get a report of what they spent and what they took in.
Okay, thank you.
As part of the book, we do a report.
Other discussion on the revolving accounts? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, oh, sorry, do we have a motion? And we have a second. Okay, all those in favor? Hands? It's unanimous. Approved. Unanimous. 3:30. Article 8, supplement fiscal year 2015 departmental budgets. To see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, a sufficient sum of money to supplement fiscal year 2015 departmental budgets, or fund previously approved articles, or take any other action relative thereto. Bill, did we refer this?
Usually we refer that. I would recommend referring it.
Yeah, because we don't have any at this point, however,
Right.
in case something comes up. Okay. Can I have a motion to refer to town meeting? Bruce, second. Jim? Any discussion? All those in favor, hands? Looks like unanimous. Okay. Article 9, budget for fiscal year 2016, we will actually take up beginning tomorrow. Okay? So I don't know if we need a I don't think we need any motion on that, it's just on the agenda, I believe. Any additional articles that have been continued or need to be addressed? Discussion and voting on articles and budget items, so it's in the warrant, in the agenda if we needed it to be. Article 10, unpaid bills. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or to borrow sufficient sum of money to pay unpaid bills from prior fiscal years in excess of departmental appropriations, or take any other action relative thereto. Now, we know of 2 bills, but we're going to, Bill generally will refer this one to
Recommend
town
referral,
meeting
yeah.
too, right?
Motion to refer.
Pat, second? Ed, any discussion?
Can I just,
Go ahead.
just in general, when we make a motion, do you want us to cite the funding source?
When we get to it. Yeah.
So you
Yep.
want the motion to be that, like, if we were to have voted this tonight, we would have given you the total dollar amount and the funding source?
Exactly.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Thanks for qualifying. John, sorry.
And did we clarify that the CPC money for the laptop was in excess of their appropriations? Is that why that's why it's in here?
It's an unpaid bill. We haven't determined the funding source yet.
Oh, no, it just
for
says it's in excess of the department appropriations, which I assume they still have money in there.
It's from a closed fiscal year, so we're not allowed to pay bills from a closed fiscal year without town meeting vote, so.
Okay. Okay, so a motion to table, Pat, seconded by Ed.
Refer.
Sorry, to refer. Any discussion, additional discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. All those opposed, it looks unanimous. Refer. And that was unanimous. Article 11. Let me see.
Not us.
That's not us. Although I think I did put it on the agenda for us to hear because it doesn't involve spending, but it does involve the format of the warrant, of which we have a critical piece in by publishing our report. So I'd ask the town, the chair of the Board of Selectmen who proposed this article to appear before us and just tell us what it was about and his version of all of this on Wednesday. Article 12, rescind unissued borrowing authorizations. To see if the town will vote to rescind the unissued borrowing authorizations on certain previously voted town meeting articles or take any other action relative thereto. Bill, do we refer this as well because this isn't all of them, or is this all of them?
We could approve this, yeah. You could
Okay.
approve that list.
Okay.
I don't
Motion to
anticipate any
approve.
others.
Wait a minute, a motion and a second to discuss? Bruce, okay. Pat, discuss.
I was just going to say,
Question.
motion to approve in the amount of $481,215
We do the
as
actual
printed
amount?
in Bill's schedule.
Second. So wait a minute, we had a motion and a second, so,
She's just clarifying that we should put the amount in, I guess?
Friendly amendment?
right, so friendly amendment,
Yes, friendly amendment to
okay,
approve with, what was the number?
$481,215 as printed in Bill's schedule.
correct. The specific
said.
articles and dates and warrant, the article titles as printed in Bill's schedule for Article 12, according to Bill's schedule. Which totals,
481,215.
pretty tough, did you audit that number?
I did indeed.
I did that one in my head, Jesus, trembling for a minute there. Joe, get this under control. Okay, any additional discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous, okay. So that's approved, it's unanimous, it's 3:30. Article 13, accepting contract funds for town roads. to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept and enter into contracts for the expenditure of any funds allocated to or to be allocated by the Commonwealth for the construction, reconstruction, and improvements of town roads, or take any other action relative thereto. This generally refers to Chapter 90 money, but isn't restricted to just that. Is there a motion? Jim and Bruce? Any discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous. Article 14, apply for and accept federal state funding to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to apply for and accept any federal and/or state funding which may be available to the town, or take any other action relative thereto. Bruce votes motion to approve, and Jim is a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous. Article 15. This is for collective bargaining. I'd entertain a motion to refer to town meeting.
Motion to refer.
Jim, second. Bob? Any discussion? The only reason that we're tabling this or referring to town meeting is that we don't have a contract to consider. If we do, and it's after we convene on all the voting of these articles, we'll then come back together again and advertise a public hearing and hear that contract.
That's what I wanted to clarify, that we're not giving up our right to obviously hear it and discuss it. Thank you. That's for Roberta.
Who couldn't be with us tonight. Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands to refer. It's unanimous. Pen, I'm going to have to bring an attorney. Article 16, to use bond, surety, or deposit to complete, unfinished subdivision. So this is not a routine article. It's one that was put in here so that we could then also act on Article 17. So the article says, to see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 81U, Paragraph 12, to allow the proceeds received from any bond, surety, or deposit for a subdivision in default to be available to the town for expenditures to meet the cost and expenses of the town to complete the construction of ways and installation of municipal services as shown on the subdivision plan. And if the amount of such proceeds does not exceed $100,000, the expenditure may be made without a specific appropriation under General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53, provided such expenditure is approved by the Board of Selectmen or take any other action relative thereto. Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to
Bruce?
approve.
Second? Ed, discussion. Pat?
I just would like to make sure we say in our Finance Committee notes that Article 16 must be approved in order for Article 17 to be heard at town meeting,
Yep.
so that we can make it clear to everybody that they're related.
Ed, go ahead.
Do we have any other bonds that are out there for other subdivisions that you know of, Bill?
I believe the town manager said that there weren't any that we should be pursuing at this point because they wouldn't cover the cost of what needed to be done. That question was asked of the town manager at the public
Well,
hearing.
they could be out there, but we're not going to pursue it. Is that the status as of right now?
Right. I don't know if we have a schedule of those bonds somewhere, Bill?
There's a whole bunch of stuff sitting in there since I inherited when I got here, so.
Is any of it actionable at this point, or if this passes, are there any other that we should?
I don't know.
This is the one.
No, you'd have to check with the planning board or engineering or something.
Yeah, okay. Other discussion, questions? And we have a motion and a second, and we've had discussion. All those in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous. Article 17, completion of Woodpecker Road. to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, a sum of money for the town to complete the construction of ways and installation of municipal services on Woodpecker Road as shown on the subdivision plan for Westbrook Estate, or insert proper name of subdivision, dated, insert date, as on file with the town clerk, including all incidental and related costs, or take any other action relative thereto. Now, if we're going to make a recommendation, the recommendation, going back to this sheet, if you see the very first article up here, is that the funding source be the surety bond in the amount of $74,000. Joe, question?
I do have, I don't think we should be using the word completion because the town manager said that the 74,000 would not complete the full job, so the road becomes acceptable by the town. I wonder if maybe that wording the completion should be taken out. I thought about that after the town manager had presented it. I mean, completion is completing the job, and he himself said that he wasn't gonna, that this 74,000 wouldn't complete the full job.
I don't know that we can change that, Joe.
We could get in trouble with that, though.
We're committing ourselves pretty heavy to this thing here.
Well, it says for the ways and installation of municipal service on Woodpecker Road. What does that mean? I'm assuming it's what we determine it to be.
Like I said, I thought about it after it was presented to us, and I thought that the word completion should not be there.
We're talking about drainage, we're talking about lighting, we're talking about paving on this thing here, we're talking about sidewalks.
What the town manager did say is that the DPW superintendent said the $74,000 was enough to do what we needed to do.
Well,
That's all I know.
It does say complete the construction of ways and insulation municipal services. This, I really feel that we're setting ourselves up to be hurt by this thing here.
Well, the only money we could spend is $74,000, and that's the amount of the bond, so.
But wait, okay, but somebody would come up then and say, whoa, you didn't complete the construction.
Okay,
So
so,
this is a contract, Rick, when we put this out this way, and I think we're committing to something that we don't intend to complete.
I think we're overthinking it, but that's my opinion.
Okay, you
And
may be
we've got a
right.
motion and a second, so if you guys don't want to vote for it, I think that's going to be a problem, but unless you want to table this until Wednesday. Yes. I'm telling you, we need an attorney at these meetings. Who made the motion to table? Joe, and the second was Bob. Okay.
Question, what's
And
going to
now-
happen Wednesday?
What's that?
What will happen Wednesday?
We'll take this up again, and the town manager will be here to explain.
Okay.
Yep. All those in favor of the table till Wednesday? Thanks, it's unanimous. Who was on the subcommittee for this article?
Me.
Jim?
Yeah.
And you guys didn't discuss this wording?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. This was, I was the one that announced that this $74,000 was left out of Phase 1. The completion of the work is in Phase 2.
Why did we
These are
just-
two totally different
Why don't we-
contractors.
Well, I know that, but we had an explanation for that the night of the public hearing. Was that not satisfactory?
I didn't like it. I didn't like it because of the same thing that Bob just said.
I did not hear that in the public hearing. So if we've got a problem we need to follow up for this vote, I'd just say for the future, because now we're delaying this again. We should have had an opinion from the town manager. If that wasn't satisfactory, then we should have had the attorney interpret this, is all I'm saying. It's just more delays in this stuff that's got to get done.
I'm sorry, but yeah, I disagree with what Bob just said, because the town manager said that this is enough to finish it at the time.
Yeah, that's right, he did.
He said it is enough, and it is not. When you say completion of all of the municipal services, it is not.
All right, I guess it comes back to your definition of what that means.
Okay.
So, Bob, Joe, Bob.
No, he said that the 74,000 was enough to get the road paved. He wasn't sure if he could get all the silt out of the drain pipes. It certainly wasn't enough for the sidewalks or lighting and so forth. 74,000 does not go far.
Okay,
on a
we've
road
tabled it.
anymore.
We'll have him here. I'll make sure he's got an attorney on the line, and we can vote it up or down. Moving on. Article 18, amend the library project vote. As written. Well, the handout I gave to you today is just, got, at the bottom of it, has the attorney's opinion that the motion as written is fine. Yep. I did make a note, though, that the Mass General law needs to be cited in the second paragraph.
And this is just basically saying that we're not on the hook for any more than just under 7 million.
It doesn't specifically say that.
Well,
It
14
says that
million
we are
is a
tied
total.
to these funding
Yeah.
sources here.
14 million is a total, and the minimum we're gonna get is 7,677,000, whatever, or 7,040,000.
Correct.
So, in essence, we can't be any more than 7 million, which is what everybody's worried about, right?
Right, but just be clear, this doesn't say that we're only on the hook for $7 million.
Right.
Okay? This says that here's the funding sources, here's the total appropriation. Anything that falls outside of that isn't approved.
Right.
No, it is. We're approving 14 million.
14 is the most we're gonna pay.
I said 14 million's appropriated.
Right.
And 7 million, anything outside of the funding sources that are identified here, the MPLCP award received July 2014 of $6,702,689. The preliminary design gold level of $201,000 or $81, or the platinum level of $234,594. State aid to public libraries grant, $70,000. Helen Lake Estate donation, $33,000. Anything that falls outside of that funding source isn't in scope of this article. So if the total library exceeds, and it's $15 million, then they've exceeded their appropriation and in violation of the appropriation that town meeting gave them. The only money that's going to be appropriated for this is what's sourced here, and we're on the hook for the balance, which is,
Just under 7 million.
yes.
Other than that, it would have to be another article to town meeting if we went over, or if they had to go over. We'd have to do another whole article.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so,
That'd
okay,
be a whole
I
nother-
think that's what
that'd be a
everyone
whole
make sure.
nother
The
special
most
town
we're gonna be
meeting
on
or
is 7
meeting.
million. That's, I think, clarified then.
No, I just don't
Get it
know
out.
if we're just splitting hairs with the wording.
Pat, the attorney has approved this, so
No,
we
just
can
let me
put it in our
finish.
comments.
No, all I'm saying is you're saying that what falls outside of this funding sources isn't in scope, but that's not true. What falls, the 14 million minus this is what is in
That's ours.
scope.
14 million's appropriated.
Right,
Here are the expected funding sources. The balance is what we're on the hook for.
right.
Is that right?
And that's what everybody wanted to be
Yeah,
clear on.
and my concern at the
Or-
time was, without it being in the article, it doesn't, if those funding sources aren't in the, I guess it's just a leap of faith.
I don't think it is, Pat.
No?
We've had 2 attorneys review this,
But they didn't.
and bond counsel.
But it isn't. It just says that a 2/3 vote is okay. It doesn't say anything about a 2/3 vote says that we don't pay more than 7 million. This attorney's response did not address the question.
All right, you're going to have to vote it. I'm not
I
delaying
know.
this.
I'm not saying to
Isn't the
delay it.
article including all this? This is all the article now.
Yes, it is. So Article 18 to Article 19,
Including all that
all the
funding.
wording in between.
All the funding is in the article. now.
Right. And we had,
Only thing that's not in there is the council opinion, but we'll just put a note.
13 people ask questions on this at the public hearing. We've had 3 town council opinions.
I'd like to see them then, and I guess maybe that's it. I haven't seen them.
They're not going to, seen what?
You keep saying we've got legal opinions.
It's right here,
All
Pat.
I've
It's
gotten
right
is
at the bottom.
three
This
sentences.
is signed by Lauren Goldberg. This is her opinion.
Okay.
What is it you're missing?
Well, I've got to, the mood of town meeting was, we don't want to spend any more than $7 million.
We're not
And
gonna.
you can't.
We can't. It's 14
You
million.
can. If
No, you
that- if
cannot. The appropriation is $14 million, and it has to have these funding sources to meet that appropriation. So if we don't get that grant or the full amount of that grant, and we don't get the preliminary design money, and we don't get the state aid or the Helen Lake,
Well, okay.
then
Let's say we do get it, and there's a change order at the end for $1,200,000.
it can't be approved, Jim.
Who pays for
A new
it?
article.
They
Have to
cannot,
warn
but it's got to go to another special town meeting. The only appropriation here is for $14 million, no more. What do you want to do?
Motion to approve.
Well,
Second.
We can still discuss, but I think we
discussion.
shut it to death.
Certainly we can make clear in our comments that, our intention is, as we did the last time, we did the same thing the last
No,
time,
I
same
know we
dance,
did.
same
Yep.
everything, right. That we made our comments that said we're whatever the net balance is here for borrowing for the town, that's our total exposure.
Well, but I thought that what was being presented to council was whether this guaranteed that the town was not going to be liable for more than $7 million, and it's not.
That was mine.
But the article says
came out
14
exactly
million.
the same way.
It doesn't say it doesn't say any
the
amount, it says
questions are the
14
same.
million.
I'm confused as to why this is confusing, I
Jim, the
guess.
article says 14, we appropriate $14 million. If they spend $15 million, they got to come back to the town meeting for the other $1 million with another special article.
That's
Or
not what
else
we're
it won't be
saying,
on
though,
paper.
John. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying that they can spend more than 14. What we're saying is that we expected what was presented to the attorney would clarify that we will not spend more than 7.
Well, because
That's
you have,
what
We'll have
I
to
was-
rewrite the article.
you have these funding sources here, right in the
Which
article.
we discussed the other night would not be part of the motion. So my question was, if it's not part of the motion, is it absolutely clear that by voting this article, we don't pay more than 7? That was my question. And I don't see that that question was answered. Now, I'm not saying that we don't trust people
But if this
at
is the
all.
revised one that she's giving us with her opinion on it, this is caught in the motion, unless, why would they put it in here?
That was here the other night.
Right, no, but her opinion is this is fine.
It was.
Her opinion was not in there.
But her opinion is saying this is fine, and this has the funding sources in it. And if her opinion is
That's
saying
not
this
the
is
motion,
fine.
John. We can debate it 6 ways till Sunday. That's not in the motion, is what the town manager said. It
It's
would
not going
be
to
in the
change, it
motion.
won't be in the motion.
Correct.
Right.
So if we're comfortable with the paragraph as is for the 14 million, with this as the explanation, then that's fine. If we're not comfortable with that it covers us for 7 million only, that's the other side of the coin. I don't know what to do.
Against this when it was first proposed, and I think I'm going to vote against it again.
Doesn't it say, provided that the amount of such authorized borrowing shall be reduced by the amount of any grant received prior to the issuance of the bonds and notes thereof? And if the award was received for 6,702, $6,702,000, so that's guaranteed. So the most we'd be on the hook for is $7,300,000 if we don't get the rest of it, but. Well,
I will, if you want to retract your motion, then we can table this until Wednesday. We're just going to, why don't we just table the whole damn thing?
Well,
I just don't know what they're going to say that's going to make this any better, because they're not going to reconstruct this article and say
Yeah.
something different than what it says, but I'm happy to table it until Wednesday, until we can have the town manager here, and if we have to, we'll have an attorney here.
All right, I'll retract my motion.
Motion to table to Wednesday?
Motion to table to Wednesday.
Second? No second. Jim, come on, you're not voting for this thing. Second it.
Second.
Yeah, it's either you or Pat.
Wednesday's gonna be a busy night.
Okay, any discussion on tabling? I don't think so. All right, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Motion fails.
All right, so it's not tabled.
I'm sorry.
to
I'm
appro-
sorry.
motion to approve, then.
Motion to approve. Second?
What's the
Okay.
motion?
The motion is to
A motion
approve,
to
as
approve
written. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Hands, please. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All those opposed? I'm sorry, 1, 2? Okay. The motion carries, the motion to approve carries. So if I was going to talk to the attorney again on this, what is the question you'd like answered?
Does this mean we're on the hook for more than $7 million?
I don't see how you see that here. This says we're not.
It doesn't, Rick.
I get what she's
It's-
saying, since the funding is not gonna be in the article, if for some reason we don't get some of these grants, we already still approved 14 million, so we could just pick up the rest of it ourselves.
And I asked the town manager that question, and is it possible we won't get this money? And he said, yes, there are a couple of possibilities. Let's say we're late on something. So it wasn't like an unequivocal, we are guaranteed this 7.
Right.
So that was my only question. Could we be on the hook for between 7 and 14?
Well, here's a question too, if we find, I assume we'll find out these grants before we start construction.
We have,
Already been approved.
So if we find out the grants don't go through, then we can do an article to rescind it.
Yeah, I'll call the attorneys tomorrow myself, not through Michael. And I'll ask this very specific question. Do we have any liability above the $7 million or the net of these figures? And to give me a written opinion about all that after she verbalizes it, or he verbalizes. I don't know if it's Joe Fair or Lauren. Lauren gave the opinion on this one, but
thank you, I appreciate that. Because I'm not against the library, per se. I just want to make sure.
okay, moving on to Article 19. Approve an agreement for payment in lieu of taxes. Are you guys all set down there? To see if the town will vote to authorize and approve an agreement and payment in lieu of taxes pilot pursuant to the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 38H, or any other enabling authority for a certain sum and a certain term of years between the town and Borrego Solar Systems Incorporated for payment of taxes related to the personal property associated with the construction and operation of a solar energy generating facility to be installed, owned, and operated by Page Street Solar 1 LLC and/or Borrego Solar Systems, Inc., on the land owned by Stoughton Redevelopment Authority located at 100 Page Street, Stoughton, Massachusetts, and shown on the records of the Board of Assessors as having a parcel ID of 1040030, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen and Town Manager to take any other actions as may be necessary to carry out the vote taken here under, or take any other action relative thereto. Can I have a motion? Bruce? Jim, second. Any discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous. Okay, Article 20. Oh, this is the assessor. To see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clauses 54, as inserted by Section 114 of Chapter 159 of the Acts of 2000, and establish a value of $2,500 as the minimum value of personal property to be subjected to taxation effective beginning FY 2017, or take any other action relative thereto. Can I have a motion and a second? Bruce, second. Second was Bob. Discussion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the one that if we approve this, there'll be less money. No, this is not. This is the personal. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
But to your point, there would be, it won't be less money. The money that won't be collected on the first $2,500 of personal property will actually be allocated across the entire tax base, so.
So the 415,000 less gets redistributed among the remaining classes.
Right, and then the treasurer doesn't have to send out, how many, 400 bills? Ed? Okay. Other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All those opposed? 2. Can I ask you reasons?
Everybody's taxes go up.
Okay. Article 21, Commercial Industrial CPA Exemption. This is the one, I think, that you were referring to.
Yes.
To see if the town will vote to amend in acceptance of the Community Preservation Act, General Law, Chapter 44B, Sections 3 through 7 inclusive, as originally adopted by the town at 2008 town meeting and the April 8, 2008 town election, by accepting an exemption authorized under general law, Chapter 44B, Section 3E, for $100,000 of the value of each taxable parcel of Class 3 commercial property and Class 4 industrial property as defined in general law, Chapter 59, Section 2A. Provided, however, that in accordance with the provisions of general law, Chapter 44B, Section 16A, adoption of such exemption shall be submitted to the voters of the town as a ballot question at the next regular town election occurring in the spring of 2016 to be effective for FY 2017, or take any other action relative thereto. Can I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Bruce, who's second? Ed? Discussion? John?
Obviously, I have an issue with this for two reasons. One is that the CPA wasn't even consulted in this, and this is, I think they said between 40 and 50,000 coming out of their budget each year is what they'll have to deal with.
And annually going forward.
And actually, the other issue I have is that even the Board of Assessors isn't even in agreement on this.
Right, we did have a letter from Mr. Zoll,
saying, yeah,
who's one of the three on the board.
So-
Hang on a second, John, we got Barb and then you. Go ahead, John, sorry, the other John.
That's okay. Okay. Oh, no, that's why, I mean, so I'm going to vote against it. I don't think we should be, we don't have enough information, and I think we need to consult with the people whose budget it's going to affect.
Barbara?
Nobody has come to the town and asked for this. It's not like the commercial people are running around saying, we want your CPA exemptions. The reason that the Board of Assessors asked for it was they said that when the school bond comes, and if we have an override, then this might help businesses. So I would think that if you were going to have an override and you were trying to pass it, the time to say we'll take your CPA exemption and give you the 100,000 might be during that ballot question time, as opposed to now when nobody really cares.
John Rock?
And the net effect of this would be to reduce the funding for Community Preservation Act. And there was no good reason given by the chair of the Board of Assessors, except that since residential property is exempt, then as a matter of equity, should just throw in the other two. It just didn't make sense to me. It just, again, I don't see the need for this, and I'm totally against it.
Yeah, and I think the law changed in 2012, wasn't it? So it was an update to the law that's now available, and I think the assessors look at the changes in the law and then bring to the town what they think makes laws complete in their view or vision. I guess the problem, and I'll speak on this, is that I'm concerned that they did not sit with the CPC, and that's why I couldn't vote with this, because I think they certainly should have had a voice in this. And I think that they recognized that as well afterwards, so I wouldn't be able to vote in favor. Any other discussion? Ed?
I just think we try to show we're a pro-business town. I mean, we whack them on the split on the real estate. I don't know if we max it out or not, but they're getting overcharged on that to give the homeowners a break. This is only a little bit, 100,000, ain't that much of an exemption. And the matching funds is only 18%. It'll probably be going down in the future. So it's not as much of a hit to the CPA as everybody seems to think it is. I think we should show we're a pro-business town. And if this 2.5 ever passes for the school, we're going to whack them real hard, the businesses again, with the split, so.
Can we stop using the word whack?
Assess.
Thank you.
And I think we should vote in favor to show we're somewhat of a pro-business town, and even though this is a small token. Thank you.
Okay. All right, seeing no other discussion. All those in favor of this article, raise your hand. 2. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the article fails 2 to 8. Okay. Article 22, extend cash value date based on building permits through June 30th. Oh, yeah. To see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of the third sentence of General Law, Chapter 59, Section added by Section 40 of Chapter 653 of the Acts of 1989 to be effective beginning July 1st, 2017, which will allow the town to timely assess new growth with the value of any new construction or other physical additions to real estate made during the period beginning January 2nd and ending on June 30th of the fiscal year preceding, that to which the tax relates to be deemed part of such real property as of January 1st, or take any other action relative thereto. Holy smokes.
Motion to approve.
Second, discussion? That was Pat. Jim, were you second? Yep. Discussion?
Do we have a hearing on this? I don't remember
Yep,
this.
we sure did.
I must not have been here for it.
Yeah, and essentially they said that we're missing out on tax revenue because we wait until a project is completely finished. So the property values have been going up during the period of construction as phases are completed, and we fail to take advantage of that as so many other towns do. So that's what they were looking to achieve here. My understanding. Okay. Seeing no other additional discussion, all those in favor of this article, show of hands. I'm saying it's unanimous. Okay, thanks. Article 23, increase the income limit for residents to apply for deferred property status to see if the town will vote to as authorized by the provisions of General Law 59, Section 5, Clause 41A, deferred property, to increase from $20,000 to $40,000 the amount of gross receipts that a taxpayer of age 65 years of age or older may receive and still qualify for the tax deferral exemption allowed under the Clause 41A. Such increase to be effective beginning FY 2017 or take any other action relative thereto. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Pat? Second is Jim. Any discussion?
Just quickly, was there any estimate of the net effect of this given? I'm just curious, and
Yeah, they
it's not going to affect my vote.
did say something. Let me see if I have a quick note on it here.
That's all right. It's just curiosity.
Hang on, I might have an answer for you, John.
Was there a dollar amount on the impact?
Well, being as I'm 65, I'm in favor of this.
Yeah, that's the budget.
I don't have
I'm sorry, John, I thought I might have it real handy
It's
here.
okay.
I'll get the number for you. There was a number attached to it, but I just don't recall it being a huge amount of money, if any. Okay. Any other discussion? Ed?
About it, but he wants 40,000. Could we make a recommendation to lower the amount to say 25? It's 20 now. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Because a lot of people can just go up and defer your taxes, and then maybe we're going to create a big problem with, if you can pay, great. If you can't pay, you just defer it, and then all of a sudden, one, we don't get the tax, and the town has to chase a lot more the people when things are happening, so I don't know.
You can't. This is accepting the state statute that's already on the books. We've got no latitude whatsoever. So we just accept it. It's on the books to change it from 20 to 40.
Thanks, Pat. The other thing is, too, is that we've been looking for ways to be able to help out the seniors here, and this is a small one, but it's kind of important, so. Okay? Any other discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, show of hands. All those opposed? Looks like it's unanimous. Ames Pond Bathhouse upgrades. I guess I'm not sure what to do with this. The CPA, Bill, can we in our recommendation, no, we can't. We can't say that this should come from CPA.
We could have voted up and down then. Next.
Right, because I think that from the public hearing, my sense was is that there was a lot of support for this. It's just that I'm not sure. I guess we can vote on it, and if we approve it, it can go to town meeting, at which time they can then vote to rescind it or cancel it in lieu of going to a special town meeting in the fall where they'd get funding from the CPA once they had time to meet. Does that make sense? We can refer? Well, I'd kind of like to be on record on whether we support this or
But even
not.
if we did a negative vote, we could do a negative vote with the reasoning being that we think the money can come out of CPC in a special town meeting. You know what I'm saying? If we make a motion and then we vote in the negative saying we feel that we should just wait for the special town meeting because CPC's indicated there's money available, that's why we're voting no.
But if we vote to approve it, they can action it on town meeting floor. They can withdraw it and move it to another. But I think that we should be on record whether we support this or not. And I don't think we can do that by referring. Does that make sense? I don't think there's any damage that can be done. And if they decide that they can't and we don't approve it or didn't take a vote, I think that that kind of puts them in a bind. And town meeting certainly is the ultimate authority to approve or make the appropriation, even if we don't recommend it. But anyways, I'll entertain any motion from the committee.
Motion to approve.
Second.
John Rock and Pat. Any discussion? Barbara?
I was under the impression they wanted to do the work this spring and have it ready for the summer, and they wouldn't be able to do it if we got referred to special town meeting. Now you think I'm wrong?
No, because they won't even be able to get the money till July 1st.
Good point.
So that's why I'm saying if we wait, they're not going to be able to get it done till next spring, either way.
Okay,
But
you're right.
Mr. Dennison did say he didn't want to lose the year, that he felt he'd
He's
lose.
not going to lose the year if we had no inspection. He'd lose the year if we waited till next year's town. But if we clearly we're going to have a special town meeting because we always do. It's the same year, so because he has to get the bids and everything, and he can't
We know that
start that
this-
till July 1st.
I'm sorry, do we know that the CPC will hear anything? I just don't know enough
She
about the
indicated
process.
that they looked into it with Mr., so I guess Mr. Dennison did go to see her, and she said that they looked into it. It does look like something that would be eligible for CPC funding.
But I don't recall a conversation about the special. Would the CPC hear it before a special? I just don't know enough about their processes.
Well, I
know
think
if
he has
it's
to
just-
apply to them, and
Right, I just don't know when they hear them. I don't know if it's a year, I just don't know.
Well, if they're going to have a special, they'd have a public hearing before then, certainly, to figure
Does
out
this
what.
fall under one of their categories, though?
recreation.
Yes.
He said it
The
falls under
recreation? Okay.
yeah.
Right, and they can do rehabilitation or renovation.
It
is
just
what,
seems silly
what
for us to
told
spend
me.
cash if we had the money sitting in that account to spend on it. So that's why I'm thinking vote no, but, I mean, I personally want to vote no and make the notation that we think that it would be better served coming out of CPC funds.
Okay, well, we don't have a definitive opinion on it. We have I think we can, but, all right, we have a motion to approve and a second. Any additional discussion? No? Conjecture.
It will be. But, no.
Okay, all those in favor, show of hands? All those opposed? 9 and 1 opposed, so it passes. Article 25, salt brine system for the highway department. And this one we'll need a number for because we've got it in here. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money for the purchase of a complete salt brine system, including but not limited to a liquid tank and a spray bar that would be attached to the highway department hook lift truck, and all incidental and related costs, which system would turn salt into liquid for pre-wetting roads with salt brine ahead of a storm, which then dries and turns back into a liquid when snow falls, forming a bond between the ice and the roadway, reducing the ice buildup and therefore the work and cost to remove snow or take any other action relative thereto. I think there's a lot of sorry, motion, John? Jim? Motion to approve, second by Bruce.
With the money coming out of borrowing,
Discussion,
general borrowing? Isn't that part of the motion, with the money coming out of general borrowing?
that's right. No, wait a minute.
No.
Where do we say that was coming from?
The general borrowing.
It was general borrowing. Jim, did you want to amend your motion to say that this money would be coming from general borrowing? Okay. Bill, it seems to me like there's a lot of additional information in this article that's probably not needed. So, I'm sorry, I'm surprised we didn't get the chemical breakdown of the brine itself, and,
People don't have, people that will be at the meeting won't understand it.
well, John's going to have to speak on this for sure, yeah. Okay, all those, excuse me, any more discussion? Seeing none? All those, Barb, and see?
I just want to say that the salt brine system is going to eat your cars a lot more than regular salt, and it's been reported on CBS and Burlington, Vermont, and even in the Volkswagens over in Germany. So if you're thinking about this, just consider that a little bit.
That's what I was gonna say, it's a very concentrated salt, so
It's a
it
very
does- it's actually
concentrated
worse
salt,
for
and it's going
cars.
to, you know, I feel like if you go to the car wash, you're probably going to be okay, but I just feel you should know the facts before you vote, that's all.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? And I just want to remind you that the snow plowing bill is over $1.5 million this year, and this will help it. All those in favor, show of hands. All those opposed? 9-1. You voted in,
I did, I just said I wanted people to know.
yep. And you are good that way. So 3:30. Article 26, install a variable frequency drive at Gurney Well to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and or borrow a sufficient sum of money to design, purchase, and install a variable frequency drive on the water pump motor control system at the Gurney Well located on Plain Street, with the expectation that the savings in the volume of water consumed will allow the town to recoup the price of the drive in the first 2 to 4 years of operation, or take any other action relative thereto. Jim and
With the
Bob,
debt.
Money coming out of the
but-
water
but
enterprise.
Does that come from the water debt, Jim? Okay, so you might amend your motion to say it comes from the water debt, water department debt. Does that sound right, Jim? Okay, and the estimated cost on this was $50,000. Okay, and the second was Bob? Still seconding, okay. Any discussion? At one point, Mr. Batchall indicated that this was his number one source of, provided 35% of the water in town, so it makes a ton of sense. So, all those in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous. Article 27, wishful thinking. Water system improvements to see if the town will raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to research and design of a water pressure booster station to increase water pressure to the north end of Stoughton to the state required 30 PSI, including all incidental and related costs as proposed in the June 2006 Water System Master Plan. Such funds to be added to those appropriations at the 2013 Annual Town Meeting, or take any other action relative thereto. The amount being requested is $50,000, and I believe it was the Water Department that was identified as a funding source borrowing. Thank you. And the second was Bob. Any discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous. Article 28, Queen Anne and Beaverbrook Wastewater Lift Station, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to replace pumps at the Queen Anne and Beaverbrook wastewater lift stations, and to have, that have reached 100% of their life, 150% of their life expectancy, with high efficiency pumps, including all incidental and related costs, or take any other action relative to thereto. The amount being requested is $90,000, and and the recommendation would come from retained earnings, sewer retained earnings. Yep. Second. Bob, any discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. Looks like it's unanimous.
Oh.
Sorry, I just need to finish making these notes real quick.
Was that sewer retained earnings, Rick, or just the sewer enterprise?
Retained earnings.
Okay.
We have, based on Bill's estimation, there's about $400,000 available. There's probably $900,000 in retained earnings, but of that, making sure that we're guarded to make sure we've got enough in reserve to pay bills and things of that nature, there was $400,000 available in the reserve to be able to be used towards capitals.
I just wrote it in the wrong column.
Good question, Pat. Moving on. Article 29, inflow and infiltration, also known as I&I. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to continue improving the sewer system and reduce infiltration and inflow of groundwater and water from other sources, including but not limited to investigation of sources of water, loading from rain leasers and/or sump pumps, and all incidental and related costs, or take any other action relative thereto. The cost of this borrowing is $300,000, and it should, we've identified on this map that it should come from the sewer enterprise account.
One other point, Mr. Batchelder, when he was here, wanted to add $109,000 to this for the camera in Article 37, which is involved with the sewer.
Yeah, he actually wanted to, yeah, and he researched that and said that the MWRA would not approve that, unfortunately.
Did he really? Okay.
Yeah, it was great thinking on whoever came up with that thought.
Okay. Motion to approve with the funds coming from the sewer enterprise account.
Jim and Bob, discussion. Bill? Yes. Says sewer enterprise debt borrowing.
Sewer enterprise debt.
Yep.
Really?
Any discussion? We get 75% of that currently. It fluctuates year to year, but Mr. Batchelder said currently it's 75%. And generally when we borrow it, if we have to, and I think we formally have to, they turn around and give it right back to us, so. All those in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous. Article 30, Central Street Sewer Extension, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to purchase all components of and install a sanitary sewer in Central Street from the existing sewer manhole near the intersection of Central Street and Donald Road northwesterly, 625 to 800 feet, more or less, to the intersection of Sharon Street and Central, including all incidental and related costs, and further, to authorize the Board of Selectmen acting as sewer commissioners to acquire all necessary easements or other interests in land in connection with this project or take any other action relative thereto. Is this the 160 we said was being withdrawn?
Yeah, this is likely to be withdrawn.
Pat?
I was going to say motion to refer.
Okay, second?
Second.
Jim? All those in favor? Show of hands. It's unanimous. Well, you could have saved me all that reading.
You on a roll.
Article 31, it's a warm-up. Article 31, hydraulic sewer model. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and or borrow a sufficient sum of money as printed. It's $50,000 for this hydraulic sewer model. Can I have a motion?
Even though this is coming from the town engineer, I think that the motion is going to be that the motion to approve with the funds coming from the sewer enterprise debt.
Hang on a second. How much? It's $50,000. What's that?
I think that was retained earnings, Jim?
Article 31.
Is that one? Yeah.
It was sewer retained earnings, Jim.
Is it sewer? Okay.
Yep.
Motion to approve with the funds coming from the sewer retained earnings.
Bruce. Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous.
Yep. Okay. I was looking at the wrong 50,000.
They got it in two places.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Article 32, Central Street and Pleasant Street intersection improvements. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and or borrow, I say this in my sleep, by the way, or borrow a sufficient sum of money to complete transportation improvements to the Central Street and Pleasant Street intersections or take any other action relative thereto. This is $50,000, and the selectmen actually had a special hearing on this just last week, so very informative. And they all sounded, all the improvements and changes sound like they make a ton of sense. So, can I have a motion? Bruce?
Motion to approve from general borrowing.
Jim, second. Discussion? Okay, this is going to come from general borrowing, according to Bruce. All those in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous. Article 33, roadway, bless you. Article 33, roadway inventory and condition assessment. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and or borrow a sufficient sum of money to complete a roadway inventory and condition assessment or take any other action relative thereto. This would also be coming from general borrowing. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Pat, second. Bruce? Any discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous. Joe, did you have a question on this? I know we already voted, but it looked to me like you.
I thought this work was going to be done by a consultant.
I think it is. Yeah. I think somebody in the audience wanted to hire interns or something to do it, but, but, okay? No, Eddie. This is general borrowing. $80,000, general borrowing. Article 35. Let's keep track, make sure it's right. 34, sorry. Transportation improvements to Town Square, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and or transfer, and/or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to complete transportation improvements to the Town Square or take any other action relative thereto. It's $50,000, and if it's approved, we would take it from general borrowing. Is there a motion? John, a second? Joe? Any discussion?
What if we don't think this helps?
Then don't vote for it.
Perfect.
No left turn on Wyman. Any other discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, raise hands, please. All those opposed? 9-1, approved. Article 35. And that was general borrowing. Okay. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money for consultant services for transportation-related engineering analysis, design, and surveying services as needed, such sum to be added to the appropriation for such purposes, such sum to be added to that appropriated for such purposes under Article 60 of the May 2013 town meeting, or take any other action relative thereto. It's $100,000, and it would be from general borrowing if approved, would be the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Bruce, second?
Second.
Jim, discussion.
Rick, I just want to add that Mark Tisdale said that this positions us to help get some reimbursement money from the Mass DOT.
Right, it was the TIP program, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. All those opposed? 9-1. Article 36, Water Department Capital Equipment. Now, this is one article for two items, and I'm just going to read the article and the total amount. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, or borrow a sufficient sum of money to replace and/or purchase the following items in the Water Department. Replace a 2000 pickup truck and replace a 2000 Ford E150 van at a cost of $32,000 and $30,000 respectively. If this was approved, it would be coming from Water Department debt. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Jim Gearon, motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second is John Malley. Any discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. Okay. Jim?
Yeah, I wanted to, our discussion when we were talking...
Wait a minute, are we going back to discussion now?
Yes, I am, yeah. Well, I tried to get my hand up, but you,
Oh, sorry.
you were too fast for me.
You got to be more enthusiastic.
Our discussion when we were meeting with Mr. Batchelor about this was, we seemed to be trending towards not approving that Ford van. Or at least that's the way I was interpreting what was being said. I didn't really have a problem with that. I don't know what the Ford van is used for.
Meter technician.
Yeah, that's,
The meter guy.
no,
I'm sorry, now I'm gonna have to stop and
they'll
find
go
this
along
deal.
with it. Thank you.
Sorry. I just wanted to go back on my original note on that, Jim.
I did have the pickup truck was his number 1, and obviously the van was his number 2.
These got renumbered. Here it is. Yeah, I didn't have any additional notes on it. Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed? 1, 2, 3. That's 9. Somebody didn't vote, which is your prerogative. I did. You want to do this again? All in favor, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed? 2, 3.
Can I just say that the reason I didn't is I have to start saying no. I would have approved one, but not both.
Yeah, I think somewhere along the way here, the Board of Selectmen started weeding this out. But in terms of total vehicles that were requested, but I understand that. Article 37, Sewer Department Capital Equipment. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, or borrow sufficient sum of money to replace and/or purchase the following items for the sewer department. And did we say that the last one was going to be coming from water department debt? I think we did, for the motion.
Yes.
Joanne? Okay. All right, and as this one is also sewer department capital, oh, wait a minute. Is that sewer, that's water department debt, my apologies. So Article 37 is sewer department to capital, I just read it, and it's to replace the camera and accessories for $109,000, to replace the 1996 F-350 for $46,000, and a used 6-foot trailer for, to mount a pump for $15,000, total cost $170,000. And that would, if approved, it would come from the sewer department retained earnings. Second? Bob? Discussion? Ed?
Mark?
Yes. 1 second. Ed?
No, the other sewer article, the 160, number 30, I mean, they're probably going to withdraw it, but if they don't, or if something happens to that, we're going to be over on the retained earnings for the fund. Do we deal with that at town meeting later if something happens, or?
Well, yeah, but I think Mark was pretty emphatic he was going to take it away, and we referred it to town meeting. So we'll make that clear in our comments that we did it with the understanding that Mark was going to withdraw that.
Otherwise, we'll be over around 400, we'll be well over that, so that's all. Okay.
Pat, did you have a question?
No, I just want to verify again. I think you said earlier the numbers were, we have plenty of money in the retained earnings, so we.
400,000.
Okay.
Yep. John Rock.
Wasn't it mentioned that if we included the camera and accessories in I&I?
No, we tried to tack that on.
Oh,
Right, and Jim asked the same question. I had asked the superintendent if we could somehow add that into the I&I money, and he actually called MWRA
Okay.
and got a ruling that said, no, you can't do that for an equipment. You could do it to hire a service to come and do it, but you can't do it to buy the equipment, which is too bad because it was a pretty thoughtful way of using that money. Okay, any additional discussion? All those in favor, say, raise your hands, I'm sorry. It looks like it's unanimous. Check me on that. Approved, unanimous, 330, and it's from sewer retained earnings, okay. Bill, how we doing? 310 out of retained earnings still? That's what yeah, okay. Article 38, general capital outlay items. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, or borrow sufficient sum of money to replace and or purchase the following items for departments. Townhouse, vehicle, 3 cars, $81,249. Vehicle, 1 truck, $25,095. Fire rescue, a Class A pumper, $550,000. EMS upgrade, $75,000. Gear storage lot.
I just was confused. I didn't think we were voting it as one. I was just clarifying with my neighbor. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my intention is to vote as one, just like I would at town meeting, not to take this apart at town meeting and vote one at a time. I'm not presenting this as a single article. If somebody wants to make a motion not to do that, we can do that, but we did this last year, and it took us almost an entire night to vote one article.
But is it possible to make, I mean, because like with our recommendation
Can
being.
I finish reading this first and we can go to discussion? Sorry. Gear storage lockers, $10,000. Expand Station 2 parking lot, $10,000. Public Works, replace a 1990 auto packer, $250,000. Replace a 1999 recycle truck body for hook lift, $150,000. Replace 52-inch mower for $9,200. Replace street lights and poles, $100,000. Water main replacement, $500,000. Police Department, I thought this changed.
That's the,
Oh, our recommendation. Okay, we got to change that, okay. Gotcha. 6 police cruisers, $239,274. 3, Life Scan Security System, palm reader, $60,250. Radio microwave upgrade, $45,000. Security system, $35,531. Rough mower at Cedar Hill, $8,000. Tractor and backhoe, Cedar Hill, $30,000. Events committee banners, $15,000. Recreation, replace one furniture in recreation department, program room, $5,000. Now, 2 things. These had different funding sources. And I'll read this note into the record, and then we can change it as we go. So, this is 38. Can I borrow your ruler again? No, I got it. All right, just so we get this straight. The town vehicle cars, the 3 cars for the townhouse, $81,249 would come from general borrowing if approved. The truck would come from general borrowing if approved. The Class A pumper would be coming from general borrowing if approved. EMS upgrades from general borrowing if approved. The $10,000 for storage, the gear storage lockers, I recommended that we take that from cash. The expand parking lot number 2, I think that I actually said cash for that too, and it's not here. I did, yeah, there's another. 10,000, it'll be from cash, I'll have to change that number, it's 172.
Yeah, you get 10,000 in cash for the
Yep.
parking.
Okay, the Public Works replaced a 1990 auto packer, $250,000. I had under general borrowing. Replace a 99 recycle truck body hook lift, $150,000. I had under general borrowing. Replace a 52-inch mower. I had under pay cash. Replace streetlight poles, $100,000. I had under general borrowing. Water main replacement, $500,000. I had under water enterprise debt. The police department, 6 police cruisers. I had $175,000 coming out of general borrowing. The live scan security system, palm reader, $60,250 coming out of general borrowing. The police radio microwave upgrade of $45,000 I had in general borrowing. The town hall security system, $35,531 out of general borrowing. The rough mower for Cedar Hill of $8,000 I had in cash. The tractor with a backhoe and bucket of $30,000, I had general borrowing. The events committee banners, I had $15,000, I had cash. And I had replaced furniture and recreation programming room of $5,000 coming out of cash. So the one change that I made to this as submitted by the selectmen was changing the cruisers from 239, 274 to 175,000, all in general borrowing. That would be the motion, that would be the recommended motion if we approve this or however we change it. So can I have a motion? Can I have some motion, any motion?
Well, can we still change it after we make the motion?
If we make a motion to, yeah, we'll have discussion and we can make changes if we want, or whatever the motion is.
So motion to approve.
To approve what? Give me a dollar amount, John. The
Well, you know,
2,198,000?
at this point, the 2,198,599.
Less. The
134,325.
134,325?
What are we taking out?
Thank you, Ed. And that's the net difference between the police cruisers, right? Okay.
Well, I thought we were just discussing it all at once, all the changes.
2,134,325.
Well, she wanted a number, so,
Just so I know what we're voting.
yeah, if you want to approve, your motion to be 1,2,198,599.
2,134,325 is fine with me.
Okay, motion and a second, now we can discuss. John and then Joe.
All right, to start with the townhouse vehicles, one thing that we were going to get and haven't gotten, that I know of anyway, is which vehicles they're replacing. The vehicle identification numbers are the ones these are supposedly replacing, because one of them actually I think is sort of a new vehicle, because it's for the facilities director, which I'm guessing he probably didn't have, because it's a new job, so I'm assuming
Well,
this
in
is a new.
facilities and environment, we're sharing one.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, but I just didn't know what vehicles these were replacing, and I don't think.
It's not, these are, well, the facility environmental truck is new.
That's new.
They don't have
And the
one.
other three vehicles were, Roberta said she didn't.
Health, building, and engineering.
Building department.
Right, the selectmen cut them to 3, they cut them in half.
But these aren't new vehicles, these are replacing vehicles. That's the question I was trying to figure out, what vehicles we're replacing if they're replacements. Roberta was gonna try and get that from somebody, but I don't know if she ever did.
I think if they're replacing vehicles, that they're out of service at this point.
That's why I was trying to get, like, from the list of vehicles we have, what vehicles they're saying these are gonna fill in for.
Okay, I don't have that.
Yeah, no, I never got it. I asked last week about that, and she said she was gonna see if they can get us that information, but
Okay,
I have
well,
not
we'll
seen
still
it.
try and get, we will get it. We'll define whether this is new or replacement. But I can't do that tonight. Other questions, Joe?
I was just curious, when you present this to the town meeting members, will you do the breakdown of where the funding is coming for each?
In the motion, it'll read exactly where each of these are gonna come from.
Okay.
Yep. Bill? No, I'm sorry, it's a good question. Barbara?
4.
4.
So we have to make that recommendation now, though. I don't think that was ever really, that's what we're doing now, is making the recommendation to change that to 4 and changing the dollar amount to 175.
Right. So it's 4, we're not saying whether they're interceptors or sedans, utilities or sedans, and the new number's 175 in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
General borrowing. Thank you, Barb. Other question, Pat?
Procedurally, Bill, are you by any chance keeping track of the borrowing tally? Okay. Prior to this one? It must be. Ooh.
This is, most of the borrowing occurring is this article. I mean, there's a lot more in there because we're going to borrow for the school windows, which will double this. But there's an MWRA component. John Malley.
The only other thing I had on this was the Cedar Hill rough mower, we're recommending cash.
Mhm.
Is the cash coming out of Cedar Hill's enterprise
No,
account?
it's coming from the general fund.
So somehow should we account for that as being sort of another subsidy to CedarLl?
Well, if we're going to take cash,
And we
so
and we
Cedar
still
Hill's
got this
being
to
hit,
do.
I mean,
We still got this to do.
and tell me if I'm wrong, Bill, but Cedar Hill's being hit with, excuse me, the revenue sheet is being hit with a subsidy for Cedar Hill. But we're gonna take $8,000 out of cash off the revenue sheet to pay for this, so in a sense, it is offset.
Oh, so it is coming out of Cedar Hills revenue?
No. Cedar Hills has negative revenue that's being supported on the revenue sheet, correct? We gotta subsidize them, $92,000. Right, so it's coming off the revenue sheet as a debit to revenue. But we're gonna take $8,000 in reserve cash that's available after all the bills are paid and use it to pay for the Cedar Hills mower. So we're charging Cedar Hills, we're charging the revenue sheet on one hand for that, but we're going to get $8,000 in cash off the revenue sheet to pay for this for Cedar Hill. Plus they pay back indirect expenses back to the revenue sheet.
Okay.
Other questions? Ms. Welch?
So you're recommending for...
I'm sorry, just so the people at home can hear us, I know it's kind of a pain. Thank you, Ms. Welch.
I'm sure there are as many people at home watching this as there are here. Cynthia Walsh, 1096 Park Street. I just wanted some clarification. On the cruisers, you're just recommending 4 vehicles,
Correct.
and the amount is $175K?
Correct.
Thank you.
Bill?
Includes your negative, which, okay.
What's the negative for? Oh, yeah. The 481,215. Okay. Okay. Any other discussion? Ed?
Just a dollar amount? Are you going to present each one separately at town meeting? They're going to vote each one, or how's this
No,
going
we're
to work?
not going to vote each one at town meeting. We're
So
going
it's
to
a
vote
total
this,
dollar
we're going to
amount.
submit our motion with these individual amounts coming from the sources, the revenue sources that have been identified, if that's what the motion is here.
And then at town meeting, people can make a
They
suggestion?
can pull it apart if they want.
Right, and then, and then make a suggestion for a different amount, and that can be voted down, and then go back to the original, like we did last year.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
2 million.
2,134,325 right now.
Right. 134,325. Other questions? So, and I just say that, we had a lot of information. The subcommittees dug down on this. The public hearings had tons of questions on all this. So it would be my hope that if there were problems with all of this, that it should have come up at those times. So to take this apart like we did at town meeting last year, we wasted almost a night on one article very similar to this one.
I think they're going to do it again, but...
Yeah. Sorry, Rick, can I just say one more thing?
Go ahead.
I just want to point out, if my math is correct, I'm just looking ahead because we have the special town meeting warrant, and those articles total, if my math is correct, 549,400. So I just want everyone to be aware that there's a $500,000 that we don't have accounted for yet. So just, that's tripping me up a little bit.
Yeah, well, we may not be able to afford them.
That's what I'm thinking.
We may have to say no. God forbid. We'll see. We do have unexpended articles, and then we certainly are hoping FEMA's going to give us some of that million plus back in snow. So there's other thoughts, and we haven't even heard the final number from the state aid and things of that nature. So there's still hope. Okay, so we've had a motion and a second and discussion. All those in favor of this article, raise of hands. Okay, that's 9. Opposed? Approved, 9-1. 30. spreading into your territory there, John. Article 39, Town Meeting Electronic Vote Tabulation System, $15,000. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds in the Treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money for the purchase or lease at the discretion of the Board of Selectmen of an electronic vote tabulation system for use by the town's representative town meeting, to include without limitation all hardware, software, services, training, and technical support, and all other incidental and related costs, or take any other action relative thereto. Can I have a motion? Bob, second?
Cash.
Joe? And this is cash, right? Discussion? Okay. All those in favor, show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All those opposed? 1, 2. Motion passes. Eight to 2. Article 40, windows and doors for the West School. See if the town will vote to appropriate and borrow from or transfer from available funds an amount of money to be expended under the direction of the School Facility Committee for the replacement of, bless you, for the replacement of existing window and or door assemblies and associated components at the West Elementary School, 1322 Central Street, Stoughton, Mass. 2072. Is that the right zip? It's 02072. Which proposed repair project would materially extend the useful life of the school and preserve as written. This is $2,275,000, and I had it as general borrowing. There is an MB mass building, a school building reimbursement here. I believe it's 54% for this expedited repair program, which this is a part of. Can I have a motion? Bruce, approve. Second. Joe? Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor, show of hands. And it's unanimous. This is general borrowing.
Withdraw next two.
40, deposit to stabilization fund. Can I have a motion to refer to town meeting? John and Bruce is second. All those in favor? I'm sorry, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous. Refer. Yes, sir. Say again?
Article 41.
Oh, Article 41, I said 40? Sorry about that. This is Article 40, deposits to stabilization.
No, it's Article 41. It's Article 41.
Didn't I just say 41? Article 41.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think you said 40 the first time, I think.
I know, but twice since I said Article 41. Article 41. Jim, what article is this? Thank you. The town accountants are auditing this thing. So just to repeat, Article 41, deposit to stabilization fund. It was unanimous vote to refer to town meeting. Okay. Thank you, Bill. Article 42.
Refer to town meeting?
So this is deposit to building stabilization fund. Can I have a motion
Refer to town meeting?
refer to town meeting? John, is there a second? Second is Ed. Any discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. Barb, I can't see you.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yep, that's unanimous. Article, I know.
43.
Article 43, Ames Pond Aquatic Herbicide Treatment. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and or transfer from the available funds in the Treasury, if any, and or borrow a sufficient sum of money to fund the implementation of a program for the mitigation and management of exotic and non-exotic invasive aquatic weeds in eutrophic conditions in Ames Pond located at West Street, Lake Drive, and Highland Street in the southwest portion of the town for fiscal year 2016, including all incidental and related costs, or take any other action relative thereto. Cost of $50,000, and this is Article 43.
Cash.
I believe we said cash. Okay? Can I have a motion? Joe? Ed, second? Any discussion? Jim?
Cost in this thing here, these weeds are going to rise to they're going to break off, they're going to die off the bottom, they're going to rise to the surface. Somebody's going to have to scrape these things up. I suppose it's going to be DPW, but I'm not certain about that. But there will be additional costs involved in this thing here.
Joe?
I asked him about that, Mr. Bat. He said that that was inclusive of the 50,000 as of right now.
Okay. Other discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Hands? Unanimous? Article 44, Community Preservation 2016 Budget Report as presented. Can I have a motion?
Second.
John Rock was second, so John Malley and John Rock. Any discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All those opposed? 1. 9 to 1. It passes. Article 45. We have all these one-liners at the very bottom of the page. Funding community preservation projects. I'm just going to read the headlines on each one of these and as written. So A, Glen Echo Recreation Facilities Design and Construction, $304,000. B, Cape and Reynolds Farmhouse Security Rehabilitation, estimated cost $32,000. C, Cape and Reynolds Farm Grounds Recreation Facilities, $258,000. And that would all come from CPA funding. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
John Rock, second. Joe. Discussion.
This is all one vote, because like, I don't like the middle part.
This is all one vote. That was the motion John just made.
Yeah, all right, well, all right.
Bruce, did you have a question?
No, I think.
That was reflex action?
Yeah, I just have an issue with that second part because of the fact that he doesn't have any idea if that building is even sound. And that's $32,000 we're gonna spend on something that might not be standing in 5 years.
Did you want to add that in as a comment, John? Underneath the vote? Yes, yeah. If you vote against it?
That's my issue with it.
Yeah, I
is
mean,
that-
like, is it possible for us to do a vote for each one? And,
Well, the selectmen did it as separate votes.
Yeah, we can do it as...
That's how the
as-
selectmen did it, actually.
We can do it as individuals, if you'd like. You want to, John, friendly, it's up to you.
Sure, that, I'll,
John is going to let us, he's going to rescind his motion. And the second, right? Who seconded that? Joe. Was it Joe or? It was Joe. Okay. Motion to rescind. Okay, so now, do I have a new motion?
So a motion to approve A, 304,000, Article 54, Article 45,
Well, if
Part
everybody's...
A.
Okay. Do you want to do A and C?
Sure.
no.
No, okay. Article A.
Article 45, Part A for
Is
304,000.
there a second?
second.
John Rock. Any discussion? Bruce?
It just seemed that some of the priorities for this phase were a little skewed, and there wasn't a lot of discussion with other departments in terms of ongoing maintenance, in terms of security, in terms of fire response. It just, there wasn't a lot of I don't disapprove of what they're planning. I just don't like it that they jumped ahead. They haven't talked to DPW that's gonna have to maintain the trash, and haven't talked to fire and police. How do you know that somebody's fallen in the water or the boat capsized in the middle or?
You don't.
So I think they kind of jumped the gun a little.
Other discussion, Jim?
I pretty much echo what Bruce is saying. I thought this was definitely undefined, most of this thing here, and because of that, I'm uncomfortable with it.
Other discussion? John, Rock?
As I heard it, it was to get the project started.
That's what I heard too.
And, you know,
This wasn't
I don't
the
know,
beginning
we
of the end
bought
all?
this, what, 2-3 years ago? As far as I know, we didn't get agreements from the police and fire to patrol it then. You know, at some point, you gotta start improving this land to make it available for public use, so.
But to your, Rick, can I respond?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
To your point, we haven't needed.
Well, it's open to the public.
I go back to when I was in high school, people my age or people of high school age or around there have been using that place as a drinking place. And there's been lots of but it wasn't owned by the town. Now it's owned by the town. Yes, we haven't been supporting it, but if we start cleaning it and making it nice and we don't manage it, that's a different, right now it's just a big it's a big tree-filled area. But if we go through and enact their plan and you put in that boat dock and you put in these picnic tables, you put in these porta potties, you put in all this stuff and you do not maintain it going forward, what's going to happen to it? Turns right back into a piece of poo.
But those things are not in the scope of this article. It says active recreational and passive recreational uses, including nature and hiking trails, access roads, parking facilities, picnic areas, sanitary facilities, and the purchase of other outdoor equipment as recommended by Glen Echo Youth Development Committee, set forth in Glen Echo, blah, 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 to the Kyle Zick landscape architect. So, and I don't know that this park's going to be open once we do these things. It's just, if this is going to happen, I'm sure it's going to happen in phases. It would have to, because there's a lot more than this has to happen. But, you know, they never said, with all these things, we'll open the park to the public. I didn't hear that.
This was phase one.
Okay.
Like when they gave us that plan downstairs.
Yeah.
This was phase one.
Okay.
If you go ahead and do all this, spend $304,000 to make it all nice. After the first summer, they had mentioned you have to bring out everything that you brought in. Yeah, I'd like to see them enforce that. Like, people are going to be told that they have to bring all their trash out that they brought in, and it's not going to happen. It's going to go into trash cans. It's going to, if we don't have a plan to do that, and that's what my only argument with this is, that they went ahead and did not speak with the people that are going to manage it going forward. If they had done that and they came with a unified plan, I'd be all for it.
Okay.
Right now, it's not unified.
John Malley and
I just think one
I'm
thing
sorry,
on that,
you
which
first.
I see what you're saying,
Sorry.
is they can't use their money to pay for that part of it. All they can do is the beautification part of it. But other than that, it's up to the town to figure out how to handle it.
Correct.
I mean,
I'm not disagreeing.
all they can do is spend money to fix it up, and then the town's going to figure out who's going to be in charge of patrolling it, who's going to be in charge of cleaning it up. That's the town's going to figure it out.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but I didn't hear anything that night that says they talked to the town and said, we're going to beautify it, now it's on you. I didn't hear that.
Well, don't you think all town departments are informed about this?
Did you hear it?
I think that's been the understanding since the purchase of this.
Did you hear it?
I haven't heard. We purchased this with the point of making it a park, but whatever, we don't need to debate that part, I guess, but.
Pat?
Yeah, I do appreciate Bruce's concerns, but I just also want to say I applaud the Glen Echo Committee because we did purchase this property with the idea to make it recreational, and I'm appreciative that they're making an attempt here to start with the phase one. I don't know that I agree with all the components. I don't think there's enough parking, but I think they do have to start somewhere, and I'm hopeful that they understand our concerns, and I don't think there's anything that's prohibiting them from going forward and continuing to talk to the town department. So I'm just willing to go for it because I just think they have to start somewhere. I don't think we're ever going to have everything totally ironed out to our satisfaction. And I personally don't even know how it works. I don't know if the police have the option to say I'm not going to patrol. I just don't have a clue. So I'm
They have to do what the town manager tells them to do, essentially.
yeah.
Well, they're adding all these other officers, so.
Well, in theory. Any other discussion? I get it, and I think that there's got to be an operations plan that needs to be built for Glen Echo, and it's how you're going to secure the property, how you're going to supervise it, how you're going to manage the upkeep and maintenance of the property, and that's not in evidence here, but I think we could certainly mention that in our comments as well, that these are things that the community would be looking forward, going forward, in order to review next phases. Jim?
Can we refer this to when the town manager is going to be here in front of us and direct that question at him? Is the town prepared to provide security and cleanup for this thing?
You can do whatever you want, Jim.
I'd like to make a motion then to refer this till Wednesday night.
Wasn't a motion made to approve it already?
There's already a motion on the table, so if Mr. Malley is amenable, we can...
Well, my only
You asked
question
me what I wanted to
is
do.
the
That's what I wanted to do.
selectmen have unanimously supported this, so I assume they've taken this into account in their unanimous support of this article.
I'm
No?
sure they have to.
I'm asking Ms. Walsh. No?
Yeah, they already unanimously.
I'm just saying if the selectmen have unanimously
word.
supported this article, then I'm assuming that they take into account the fact that somebody's going to have to take care of this park. But maybe they have not, I don't know.
When a group like this comes in, frequently the selectmen put it on the warrant as a courtesy. But anyone with a memory remembers that when we were voting to purchase this property, the police chief said he was opposed.
So?
Maybe you should give him those three guys.
Maybe we should find another $2 million. All right, so, John, are you willing to make a friendly amendment to refer to Wednesday?
We can take back this one and refer it, sure, that's fine.
Okay.
We'll
Who
do a
had the
lot of
second
stuff on Wednesday, but it better be here.
No second. Is there a new motion? Jim?
Second.
I can't wait till town meeting. 10 more nights.
I thought it was going to limit it to 5.
I don't see how.
The library, I'm not referring this.
Not only did we decide to take this apart, now we're referring it. We'll
But
never-
in pieces.
Referring, forget.
Wednesday, right? Is that what it is, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay. And we need the town manager in attendance. So I have a motion. Is there a second?
I seconded it.
John seconded it. Is there any discussion? Generally, on referral, there isn't. That being said, all those in favor of referring to Wednesday? 1, 2, 3, 4. All those not in favor? Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Motion fails 6 to 4.
Okay, I resubmit my original motion to approve $304,000 for Article 45A, Glen Echo Recreational Facilities Design and Construction.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
John Rock. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All those opposed? 1, 2. Motion is approved. 8 to 2. Item B, Cape and Reynolds Farmhouse Security Rehabilitation, $32,000. Can I have a motion on this?
Motion to approve.
Second? Joe? Discussion? Bruce?
I don't think we should be doing this to put windows and security, and they mentioned heating into a house that's not going to be used. They want to put windows and heating system, and what we heard that night was that they had put a heating system in this house a while back, and all the copper was stolen out of the house. Yeah, security system may have helped, but whatever.
In this town, they'll be using PVC.
That might get stolen.
But why are we heating and putting in a house that's not going to be used, in a structure that doesn't even look safe?
Well, from what I understood, what I heard is that leaving it to the elements is a problem and it'll further deteriorate the house. And if you put water in there, it would keep it from freezing and things of that nature.
We don't have, I believe Dr. Camacho asked for an engineering report that this house is even structurally sound, and they couldn't answer that question.
Okay, well, that's why we're talking about them one at a time. Bruce, anything else? Okay. John, do you have a question?
That's exactly, I mean, he said he couldn't even tell us if it was structurally sound. He had no report, and he said he felt it was, but.
Well, what more do you want?
Yeah, that wasn't enough for me. It seems like a waste of money.
I asked a contractor friend that would he let his workers work on that house, and he said not a chance. And the estimate for the windows was grossly under. So
Yeah, a whole house full of windows for $2,900.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion fails 3 to 7. Okay. Item C, Cape and Reynolds Farm Grounds Recreation Facilities, $258,000. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
John, second?
Second.
John Roach, so John Rock, so John Malley and John Rock. Discussion?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I will.
Waste of money.
Ed, and then John, I'm sorry.
I don't know, I'm not in favor of this. I think we need to slow down the spending in the CPA. We already got the Glen Echo going. The doggies can go up there. We don't have to build in solid. We'll give them the benefit of the dog.
Wait a minute, the what?
The doggies.
Doggies.
That
Oh,
they
the
can do
doggies,
the heating, but I think we're going a little too fast on this particular one.
John Malley.
I will, that's basically what I was saying. I think we got to sort of focus on one park at a time, basically. I mean, we've got to try to get Glen Echo developed. Let's work on one at a time. I know these are two different groups that run them, but it just seems like a lot to take on at once.
Hold the rest of this till tomorrow.
That's all.
After this. After this, yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion, Pat?
Even though I thought that the dog park was a little extravagant, I am in favor of this because we have had this property for a long time. And again, I'm happy that we're finally starting to do things with the properties that the taxpayers paid for, and now we can use it. So I don't begrudge the dog. He's a place to poop in peace.
Yeah, it was gifted to us, wasn't it? Way back when.
You're right, it was given.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of this article, show of hands, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bill? No? All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. The motion passes 6 to 4. Now, I'd accept the motion to conclude our meeting and continue it until tomorrow night.
So moved.
Bruce and Jim, we've got the rest of these articles, the petitioned articles is where we're at on page 21. But we're just continuing the business from tonight on to tomorrow. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
More. All those opposed? John, you've got 46, 47, 48, 49.
Discussion?
48, 48, 46, 47, 48, yeah. They're going to take us a long time. Good night. One of them's Howie's property. You think?